Joining a community like Titan is one of those ways to spark a spiral upward.
This is where you want to be. I mean, these guys are working with some of the best in the business, and so what you're getting access to is information that no one else has access to.
There is no better place to be when it comes to learning about Amazon.
2 months in Titan, I've learned more than in 2 years of us selling, trying to figure out stuff on our own.
It's hands down the best in the industry.
As far as revenue goes, I'd say in the last year, we've gone 10x in our business.
Titan has helped me scale my business by giving me education that I couldn't get, and has helped me with the idea of scaling.
Like the level 4 huddles are amazing, and you just talk to people that get you and they've been in the same situation.
When we first joined, we had 5 SKUs, and in a matter of 2 years we managed to get to almost 60 now, so it's been game changing.
Having the knowledge that gets shared across the Titan network really gives you a lot more confidence to make those kind of big moves faster.
You're always going to get better, if you're surrounded by people that are doing things better than you.
My Amazon business grew by 165%.
I started off with nothing, and today I'm a 7-figure seller. I've done it by leaning into this group, learning from the best, and creating a team around me that I know will help me every step of the way.
They changed my PPC and my PPC impressions and my sales and my conversion, all went like that.
Since I've been with Titan, my business has doubled from the year before.
Learning some of the newest cutting-edge ways to crush advertising. There are so many ways to do that in the market, but this is the hottest new stuff, and I can't wait to put it onto our businesses.
There's so many different ways to be successful. But one thing about this group and what I've learned today is more about building a brand and selling it. Building another brand and selling it.
Our goals are here, and now I think they're like here.
They're teaching you all the tricks of the trade. So if you take it all on board and you action what they're telling you, there's no reason why anyone can't do it, really.
And I was just going from YouTube to this website to Facebook, and I was just going all over the place, and I wasn't progressing. And basically, I found Titan.
Surround yourself with all the people who are passionate about doing this business to move you to the next level.
For anyone who feels that they know everything already, to see, you really don't know what you don't know.
You get like the whole spectrum of insights into an industry that can take you to the next level and whatever your goals are.
If you're not a part of Titan, join Titan, look into it.
And you're gonna see how you're gonna succeed and scale so fast.
Be a part of the community that's helped us become as successful as we are today.
Get the best minds in the industry.
We know we're not gonna fail. We know we're gonna make it.
I don't see a reason why you should not succeed.
You're gonna just blow your business up.
I'm so proud that I'm with Titan, and I'll be with them forever.
This is where you want to be.
Don't think, just do it.
Just join.
Yes, Titan, there we go. Welcome to our 5-day team building and systems challenge. Now, with that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Athena, Justin, Chris, and our fellow Titan leaders to the call. We're going to join me here on this computer, and we're going to kick off what is the next 5 days of team building and systems inside this interactive workshop environment here in Facebook and on Zoom. So guys, welcome to the call. Welcome to the challenge. Good to see you, Chris. Good to see you, Athena. Justin, who else? We got Kata, Matt, Anna, Luke looking sharp there in the background. Hey up. How you guys doing?
What's up?
Sweet.
Good. Doing awesome.
There we go. So everyone's on. And I see we have a bunch of people joining us here in Zoom. And guys, if you're in the Facebook group, you can also join us here in the Zoom room. I've dropped the link on the comments. I've pinned it to the live stream. If you prefer Facebook in the group, that's cool also. Come on in, say hello, and let us know where you're coming in from in the world. So go ahead, drop in the chat box below. Let us know where you are in the world right now. I know a bunch of our guys are over in London. We just had our holiday party on Friday. So Athena, you're currently in London. Matt, Kata, I believe.
And Luke is also, and my voice sounds like it should after an amazing few days, huh, guys?
It was awesome. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Loved it. There you go. So Joe's coming in from Area 51, apparently. Kevin from the West Coast, Canada, just above Seattle. We got Patrick in from Vancouver. Chris is in Jersey. We got people in from Toronto. Saini's in from Scotland. Robin is in from Dubai. Hey, Robin, I'm in Dubai also. We've got Bikram saying, love you all. We got Cliff in from Montana. Jawad in from Pakistan. Where else, guys? Fernando in from Mexico. Awesome. We have a full house in today. Now, I'm really excited to be actually starting this on a Sunday, as it allows us to get a jump on next week and really go into the week with intention. And we've done that when Athena and I and Justin were talking about this. We've done this very intentionally to get you set up for the week ahead with the most motivation, the most intention behind this work. Now, before we get straight in there, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll, and you should see inside of Zoom right now a little pop-up screen, a pop-up box on your screen. I want you to go ahead and answer the questions there so we can get a really good understanding of where you're at in your business, where it is you need help. And then while that's happening, I want all of my Titans to go ahead and type Titan in capital letters in the chat box so we know you're here. We can acknowledge you. And there you go. Ed's coming in, Matt's in, Maggie, Prit. There you go. Awesome. Athena, loads of people coming through in the chat box.
Nasib's here, Sam's here, and if you guys were in London with us, type London. We saw so many amazing people in the last couple days. There's my Sam. Hey Sam. It was so crazy. Titan, yes Joe, I love you. Hi Imran, hi Nadia. So many great guys.
Awesome. So we're at 57% on the survey right now. So guys, go ahead and get those questions answered, just so we can see where you're at and we can go ahead and help you at the highest level. So wait, before we get started, I just want these guys to know something. So you're going to get what you put into this, right? So if you guys give us energy, we're going to be able to give you all of our energy too. So when Dan says something like, where are you located? What do you think about this? It's really important to keep that engagement because it's going to actually help you guys so much. So when you guys see a poll, fill that thing out. And if he asks you something, definitely type in the chat box. And that way we're going to be able to have an amazing challenge together. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen while you guys are finishing up on that poll there. Sweet, so we'll give it another minute or so.
I love you. Hi, Darren. Hi, Jacob. Antonio Castillo, that's my mom's maiden name. Love it.
And then I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. And on the screen, you should see team building and systems challenge. Is that coming through loud and clear? Yep, Justin's seen that. Everyone in the chat box. Steph, thank you for that feedback. Ed saying yes, Imran saying all clear. Awesome, guys. So we're going to jump in, and I want to kind of frame this conversation before jumping straight into today's workshop. We've got 5 days of interactive workshops where we're going to go into some very specific frameworks to get systems and processes implemented in your business, and then how to hire A players to run them as we head into the new year and look towards what we want to achieve next year and figure out how we're going to achieve that and how we're going to scale. Now, for those that maybe are brand new to Titan, a quick introduction of who we are. Titan started as a mastermind around 3 years ago and has very quickly become something much greater. It's become a platform for scale. And by that, we mean we're built on community, technology, and capability. And it's the unique combination of these three things that sets Titan up for creating success and helping sellers move faster in their business. Our community is now over 1,000 sellers, all contributing back into what we call the Titan way, our way of operating an Amazon business in every area of the business, from product research, development, differentiation, sourcing and selection, through to PPC, content, how to run the finances in the business, how to scale the business, and what we're talking about here today, building a team. And our members, from what we have confirmed, and connected by our proprietary tool set, represent over $1 billion on Amazon. And that's constantly feeding back into the Titan Way operating systems, one of which you're going to be learning this week. So Titan really is this sort of brain that everyone is feeding back into, not only myself and all of our Titan leaders and faces that you can see on screen here and our Titan mentors, but over 1,000 Titan members and over $1 billion of revenue generated on Amazon, all feeding back into everything that we put together inside of the Titan Way, which is our operating system for the Amazon business. Now, the main point about Titan is not about any one person. It's not about one person's way of doing things in their one limited knowledge of category or their few years of operating, 2 or 3, 5, 10 years of operating themselves. Titan is about the entire collective and the power of that collective contribution, feeding back into the knowledge that then is professionally curated and documented in repeatable, systemized, consistent systems that you can execute in your business for scale. So with that, quick introductions, as I know more than 2/3 of this room likely don't know who any of us are or what Titan is. So I want to go ahead and introduce kind of main faces that you're going to be working with this week, and then acknowledge all of our Titan leaders and mentors as well. So my name is Dan Ashburn. I'm co-founder of Titan Network. Started online at early age in my young teens, got into e-commerce in about sort of 12, 13 years ago in my 20s. Through that journey, I have helped thousands of sellers at this point find success with Amazon, generating multiple 8 figures a year on Amazon myself and my team, co-organizing China Magic, which for some of the more veteran sellers on the call, you will be more than aware of. Athena and I and many of our Titan leaders here took hundreds of sellers out to China to the Canton Fair and hope to do so again soon. Former co-creator of ASM 11 through 13, and co-founder of Titan Network. Now, with that, alongside me, we have the one, the only, the wonderful Athena Severi. Athena, you've been around in this industry for 8 or 9 years now, kind of really bringing people together. Amazon allowing you to quit your kind of 9 to 5 in the beginning, but then you really finding that kind of special passion for bringing people together. And if you look at many of the authorities in the space, you've had something to do with them connecting in the early days. And talking about connecting, you've just been over in London, well, you're in London now for Friday, putting on one of our Titan holiday parties. How was that?
It was amazing. I also learned to DJ next to Danny McMillan, so things are great. No, but what I've been doing in this space has a lot to do with connecting people with people that can not just inspire them, but help them achieve what they're looking to achieve faster. And so I think a lot of what we saw, even here in London, we had so many people come up to us and just give us so many wins of what they've accomplished having been a Titan. So it's been really, really special. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, alongside myself this week, you are going to get to know Justin Dyson very, very well. Justin is the president of Titan Network, very successful seller, built a multi-7-figure brand before exiting it for a few 7 figures, now into his second brand, but also helping all of our members scale their businesses to achieve the same result. Justin's kind of like the leader of leaders, helping facilitate and curate all of the knowledge that comes through the network into training and systems that are repeatable and you can rely on to produce the target result in your business. And I'm proud to work alongside Justin. One of the Justin's superpowers is taking massively complicated process and breaking it down into simple, repeatable systems for success. There's a lot of people that know how to sell on Amazon. There's very few that know how to help others. And Justin is definitely one of those few. So you're very lucky to be joined by Justin this week, who's going to be leading this training alongside the one, the only Chris Rawlings. You'll hear me say this a lot because we have very...
Dan, let's stop with the one and only, because we actually all are the one and only.
Well, that was about to be my comment. You'll hear me say the one and only about all of our Titan leaders, because we do have the best minds, some of the very unique and most heartfelt giving sort of entrepreneurs in the space. So you'll hear me say the one and only because everyone is unique in their own right and has their own capabilities, and collectively.
Wait, hold on 1 second though, Dan. There's one and only supermodel, which I think is Chris. Look at that photo.
There you go. So, Chris, you're a veteran in the space. You've been on Amazon as many years as I have, I believe, and have hired over 170 people in your time. I believe your team is currently around 30 people. I kind of pulled that number out. But yeah, a lot of the insight that will be taken through this week, Chris has brought through. And alongside myself, it's going to be primarily Justin and Chris delivering this challenge this week. And then with our wider Titan leaders, helping out in supporting in the Facebook group, in the chat box, in the Q&A box, and throughout the exercises this week.
And I will keep them all in line, guys. So don't worry, I'm here to represent.
There you go. But the important thing about Titan is not just about one person. We have so many amazing Titan leaders, Lydon, Andrew, Brendan, Alicia, Sean, Kat and Matt, Luke, many of who you can see on the screen here today, who have all achieved a high level of success on Amazon and all commit their time and contribute their knowledge to curating everything that we deliver inside of Titan to help you guys succeed. We have Georgie, Ramon, Mark, EJ, Camel, Rich, Jamie, Trevor, Brett, Simon, Gonza, Ed, who have all achieved a massive results. Brett, a 9-figure exit. Ed, an multi-8-figure seller. Messi, Freddie, Matt, Kian, Jacqueline, Amber, Connor, Annetta. I wanted to call everyone out who helps lead this amazing world that we call Titan Network. And not only that, we're supported by many experts in their own field, many of them working within our team, within Titan's team, over 200 people now. But we also have the amazing minds of like Scott Dietz, Michelle Bonham-Smith. We've got external friends like Abask who all come through and then bring through that kind of industry knowledge and expertise in the form of work parties in helping put this together. So really what Titan stands for is trying to go at this business alone is a massively complicated process, and it's only getting more complicated and more sophisticated. You have to operate at a much higher level, but Titan exists to really take you from A to B much faster through that power of collective contribution, through the curation of knowledge, and then underpinning that by our technology and our proprietary software, allowing you to get the target result and ultimately achieve your dream outcome. Now, guys who aren't in Titan, you will be learning more about Titan this week. If you've been following us for any amount of time, or maybe you've been referred by a friend who said, look, you've got to check Titan out. This week, you can go to titaninvite.com/team. When you do, it will use a special code and we'll know you've come from this. And we do have a very special offer program available for you this week to apply for the community and join Titan, backed by Titan Success Guarantee. I'll let you know more about that this week. But if you know that Titan's for you right now and you just want to jump in, you can go to titaninvite.com/team, jump on a call, learn more about Titan, see if it's a good fit, see if you're a good fit for Titan and what's on offer this week to make that happen. Now, I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about this topic because when I look back at my journey and I think from being in kind of my back bedroom to my mother-in-law's garage to now being having a team all over the world, 200 people in 28 countries, we collected like within Titan, I've employed on payroll or a part of the team. It really is, it's the team that's the accelerant in everything we've been able to achieve over the last 5 years. And even in my earlier years in journey, it's always been the people around me that have enabled me to move with momentum and achieve goals that I want to achieve. So yeah, with that, there's a lot of moving parts in this business that we have to master as sellers. All these different areas of the business all need very accurate, detailed, effective systems that produce the target result, from figuring out who you're selling to consistent keyword research strategies, knowing what keywords to target and where to distribute advertising spend, product research, development, differentiation, building a real brand being more important than ever. If anyone caught our Brand Revolution Masterclass this year, you'll know we're big on that. Sourcing and inventory management, conversion, PPC, ranking, reviews, customer service, then underpinning, knowing your numbers, knowing the different metrics in your business, managing your cash flow, how financing growth because it's a cash hungry business, launching products, scaling products, and then ultimately moving towards an exit. It's a lot to execute on your own. And for any business to scale, you have to figure out how to systematically and consistently produce results in all of these areas, all coming together at the same time to achieve that target result. And whereas Amazon used to be quite forgiving, nowadays, if you don't do this stuff correctly, it costs you a lot of time and it costs you a lot of money. And those two things don't give you a lot of runway in achieving your results. So what we're here about to talk about today is how do you implement effective systems and processes that allow you to confidently execute the day-to-day operations, the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly activities that have to take place in an Amazon business to scale. How do you implement those systems and processes to do that in an organized manner, in a proactive manner, and then hire A players, hire competent operators to execute those day-to-day operations for you, to allow you to remove yourself from those reactive kind of day-to-day ops and focus on the growth of the business. And the quicker you do that, the quicker you scale, the faster you achieve that result. So many sellers and guys here, I mean, if you want to take a moment here and just, if you have any stories to share, but so many sellers hit that scaling wall of getting to $2 or $3 million on Amazon. And maybe they got there with luck with 1 or 2 SKUs because their first SKU went off, or maybe they got there with 10 SKUs, but ultimately they're still clicking all the buttons themselves. Things start falling apart because one thing goes wrong and it gets a bit overwhelming, or they get frustrated because they look back over a year and they haven't really grown because they haven't launched any new products, or they haven't executed the growth initiatives they need to in their business to scale, because they're spending 90% of their time just reacting to the day-to-day operations of the business and a very little time focusing on the growth. And it's that one Achilles heel, the lack of a structured team and processes and systems, that's holding them back from that scaling process. So maybe a couple of my leaders here, anyone that's running groups in Titan, if you've got any comment on that, I'd love to hear it, because it's the one thing I've seen in the many years of helping sellers is that kind of constant hitting up against the wall because they haven't built the correct infrastructure for scale in the first place. Justin, what do you see in this area?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, guys, I think building the team and learning how to communicate with your team, I think is probably the hardest part of this business. Everyone can learn how to sell on Amazon, right? It's relatively simple. You develop products, you launch them, make sure you're profitable, run some PPC, and you just kind of rinse and repeat, right? But this part of the business is about learning how to communicate with a team so that the team can actually do all of those Amazon tactics on your behalf, right? Or on behalf of the company, I should say. So it took me, I think, 2 years to actually build a team that could do this. And it is difficult. But the one thing I want you guys to keep in mind as you go through this week is the most important part of this is learning to set up the appropriate systems and processes for communication, for documenting what your company is actually trying to achieve. And if you could just do those 2 things, everything else in your business would go faster, it would be easier, and you would have much more predictable results so that you can see, 50, 100, 200% year-over-year growth, as opposed to, the 10, 20, 30% that the vast majority of Amazon sellers actually achieve.
Yeah, 100%. So with that, I mean, trying to execute all this stuff, whether if you've only been doing it a year, maybe you're okay. But for anyone that's been doing this any amount of time, ultimately, if you keep trying to go at this alone, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get left behind because you can't keep on top of everything. And especially in areas like launching and PPC, it's incredibly difficult to keep on top of everything that's going on all the time. And it really is the team that's kind of holding you back. I love this quote from Steve Jobs, and I think we'll jump in now, but I love this quote from Steve Jobs. Great things in business is never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. And what we want to go through this week is give you a complete framework, a step-by-step copy and paste framework that you can put into your business to empower you and make you feel confident in 1, implementing the systems, and then 2, hiring people to run those systems. It's really as simple as that. Athena, what are you thinking?
No, it's just like some of us are control freaks because we're really good at what we're really good at. And I think for me, my biggest thing that Dan kind of had to change with me is letting go of a lot of things that we think we're like amazing at. And I think during this challenge, one thing I really request of everyone listening is to strip away all the things that you think you already know and to be very open to getting new and fresh ideas and information, because it's really easy for guys who've been successful for a while to kind of feel like they have it all under control. But I think this topic is something that's going to really like blow your mind. So I just want everyone to have a very open approach to this.
Yeah, so true. So true. So yeah, with that, this is coming from my experience and my fellow kind of partners and leadership's experience in hiring 200 people at this point. Like I say hiring, we currently have 200 people in our company, 200 people in our organization, probably hired over 1,000 over the last 10, 15 years in the various businesses. But in Titan as a wider organization, Network, Ignite, our tools, everything we've got going on in the organization, we're now 200 people across 28 countries. And that's been an incredibly fast growth curve. Athena, when we started, I mean, Ignite was 30 people. Titan started with about 3 or 4. I pulled a few people over from my other business. But in the last 3 or 4 years, we've gone from that to 200 people in all these different countries, all these different cultures, all the different time zones. And we very quickly had to find a way of working. And then down into our brands that we operate as well in the operational side of the business. Over the last 9 years, myself and Leiden operating brands there. Amazon is a very unique business. There's lots of broad operating frameworks out there, and I'll talk about a couple of those here in a second. But with Amazon specifically, there's very unique activities that have to take place to keep, react, and constantly stay on top of the platform itself. So everything we're going to go through this week has been specifically tailored. One from our own experience, all of our leaders' experiences, Chris's experiences in hundreds of people. Chris is directly employed as well. And a lot of test and development in both Amazon brands, Amazon businesses, and also scaling to a large organization as we are here today, where we run multiple brands, multiple service businesses, a community, and everything we do here in Titan. Now, who here has read one of these books? Yeah, there you go. So Michael Gerber, E-Myth Revisited.
We all raise our hands. That's cute.
The One Thing, Traction. Give me some feedback in the chat box if you've read any of these books. Or maybe Work the System, one of my favorites, possibly one of those boring books you'll ever read, but fantastic for how to systemize businesses. Measure What Matters, OKR, Rocket Fuel, part of the EOS operating system. Yeah, the EOS system was one that definitely kind of hit the industry hard about 3 years ago. Lyde and I adopted it maybe 6 years ago. And all of these are great. They're all amazing frameworks and kind of broad systems, but we find all of them lack the detail to effectively execute within the Amazon business. So what we're going to go through this week, you will see pulling on bits of all of these, because they all largely talk about the same thing. But we've refined it down after testing and developing inside of these brands, inside of multiple Amazon businesses, into an operating system specifically for you. And we call this the Titan operating system. So with that, this week's agenda, day one is about the operating system and setting your annual objectives. That's what we're going to do today. Tomorrow, day two, we're going to go through creating your plan. Day three is how to build an effective team. Day four is onboarding and measuring success within that team. And day five is implementing the systems and process cycles to rinse and repeat that on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. So we're going to cover a lot of ground this week, but with that, we are really focusing on the 20%. For my Titan members, we are going to go into a hell of a lot more depth in a step-by-step training that's been released here in a few weeks. All the resources will be available. The supporting resources will be available next week. In the next couple of weeks, we'll have the recordings out of the step-by-step, and we're going to go into a lot more detail. We're going to really go into like really filling out the sidelines of setting your vision and your mission statements and all that stuff. Now, in this challenge, we're really going to focus on the 20% that produces 80% of the result. You've heard me talk about this before, the Pareto principle, and that's what we're going to cover this week. We're going to really kind of go into the core 20%. And if all you do is implement that 20% this week, you will be in a much better shape for achieving your annual objectives than you are currently. And that's our goal this week. So expectations, show up and be present, as Athena said. Take action in real time. I don't want you here like a webinar, passively absorbing information. That's not the point of this week. We are going to give you action items. We're going to give you exercises. We're going to give you templates that we want you to go away, complete the action items, and come back the next day. The more you put into this process, the more you will get out of it, and your business will be in a much better place for it. I know that from my own experience. I attempted to scale businesses the first kind of 5 or 6 years of my journey without having any structure in place. And most of the time, I just found myself spinning my wheels and going around in circles. It was only when I started to take this stuff seriously that we'd actually see structure and progression. And that's my goal for you. Engage 100%, as Athena said. When we talk about asking you for feedback in the chat box, posting in the Facebook group, go ahead and do it. It's only serving yourself, because that engagement will come back tenfold for yourself. Now, this is big. This is a big part of our culture, is supporting others. There are sellers and fellow entrepreneurs in various stages of their journey. Some of you have been on Amazon a year. Some of you have been on Amazon 10 years. Some of you have been in business 30, 40 years. All of that knowledge and all that wealth of experience collated in an abundance mindset with the mindset of helping others is what makes Titan you very, very unique. And we want to see that this week inside the challenge. And ultimately have fun. The importance here is to have fun. Go on, Athena.
Okay, so guys, before we start, yes, this is our intention, is for you to be able to get all these amazing things from it. But what I want to know is, what is your intention for this? Why are you here? What are you trying to achieve? Are you looking to scale? Is this the first time that you're hiring someone? Do you have a larger team and you're looking to do something bigger? Are you trying to have more time for yourself? Are you trying to get to, 8 figures when you're at 7? I'm really interested in you. And I think it's really important for you guys to have an intention for this challenge. So if you can put in the chat box right now for me, what do you want to gain from attending this challenge?
And if you're seeing this in Facebook, drop it in the comments on Facebook as well, because I'd love to see that.
Okay, so we've got Carrie saying scale and sell in a couple of years. Exit for 5 million this year. Hell yeah. More time for self. Definitely. Professionalize and scale. Love that. 5x, 8 figures in 2 years. You are my people. Look at this. Launch, grow my team and scale to 3 to 4 million. Okay, great. I love this. Better time management, systems to grow. Fan-freaking-tastic, people.
I love that, Catherine. A straight line from A to B. Yes.
Yes,
Love that.
That's really good. Oh, and I love Jamie says, learn how to communicate with others on my team. That's super important. Culture's so important. Communication. Get ready to start my second private label brand with a team. Exited the first one already. I love that, going in more professionally the second time. And 20 SKUs, focus on growth. Okay, guys, I love you all. You guys are freaking rocking this. So if you haven't thought it through, make sure you have your intention, put it in here, but we're going to keep going.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to stop now. Okay, bye.
Sweet. So, guys, just a bit of housekeeping before we kick off then. We'll be live inside the Facebook group at 12 p.m. Eastern every single day. It says Monday to Friday. It's actually Sunday through Thursday. So Sunday through Thursday, we'll be live inside the Facebook group every single day. I'm also going to be sending out the Zoom link, so you can join here in Zoom. It's a much more focused environment. I prefer Zoom, so I'll get you the Zoom link each day as well. The reason not sending out that ahead of time is I don't want these links being shared everywhere. So I'll send that out in the morning. Each session will run around 2 hours. That's our target. If you've been on any one of our masterclasses or our challenges before, you know that if we're going, we're going. We can be on here 3-4 hours. But my intention is to keep this to 2 hours. Q&A will take place.
Interrupt you really fast. Sorry, there's one I had to read. They said, I want to be a baby Brett, right? Brett is a guy who exited for 9 figures. So there's like, I want to be a baby Brett is their goal for this challenge. Fantastic.
I love that. So Q&A will take place at the end of each session, and replays will instantly be available in the Facebook group. There's a units thing that we can put live in the group, so we'll go ahead and post it up there. It'll also be in the feed. So don't worry about trying to write everything down. We want you focused. Turn off your phone, turn off Facebook, turn off Netflix in the background. We need you focused here, because we're going to take you through some live exercises. And at the end of the session, we're going to give you action items that we want you to complete for the next day. So if you engage the first time around, it means you have to go back and watch the replay. And at the end of the session, we'll give all the handouts out at the end. We don't want you trying to fumble around with downloads while we're going through this. So I'll post the links for the session at the end. Now, guys, this group will close down around a week after we get done. So Friday, the 23rd of December, I will be shutting this group down. The whole point here is it's a challenge. You're taking action. You're implementing this stuff. So the group will be available until the 23rd. For my Titan members, this will go into the network next week, and you'll have all the resources and everything you need. And if you have any technical support or technical problems, please don't blow up the Facebook group feed. We want to keep that focus on the action items and on the challenge. Email support@titanmembers.com, and our team will help you out there. We do have a bunch of prizes this week. You have to show up live every single day. We track this stuff. We can see when you show up. So you have to show up live. You have to complete all of your action items on time, and you have to do as the action items say to qualify. We have an annual membership in Titan. Athena generally throws a couple of those out. We've got some listing makeovers. We've got some cash prizes, and we've got some prizes coming from partners. So I'll talk about more.
And Dan, they can come to our Christmas parties as a prize.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So yeah, we're incentivizing you to do the work on your business, to grow your business and help yourself. That is really the goal here. So engage and do the work. And with that, I just want to go ahead and put a big shout out to our partners. There are some amazing companies and service providers that have built over the last few years in our space. And as sellers, we're all very grateful for their expertise and support as this business does get more sophisticated and matures as it has. So Avask, Global Tax and Accounting Specialist, Getida, account reimbursements. If you haven't run your account through Getida, go do that in the next couple of days. Get some free money out of your account if you've been selling for any amount of time. If you ever run into any trouble with Amazon, suspensions, product listing issues, etc., speak to Riverbend. Forsket we found to be really effective at choosing the right shipping lanes and optimizing your shipping. VAA, a really good team of Amazon trained VAs, a really quick way of finding VAs to put into what we're going to teach you this week. Outsource School, Nathan Hirsch and his team, fantastic resources for going more detailed into how to train VAs and support them in your business. India Sourcing Network with Megla and her team, alternative sourcing outside of China for certain product types, certain material types, really, really good, worth looking at. Post-Purchase Pro, one way of increasing lifetime value within your customer list through email. And then brand new SKU Drop. I'm really excited about SKU Drop. It's a way of shipping directly from China to Amazon, cutting out the middleman in the 3PL and ultimately cutting down your costs in shipping. So I am going to be putting a post in the group this week. Each one of our partners here has put together a special offer for you. So I'll drop that in the group supporting this challenge, and a big thanks to our partners. Now, without further ado, Justin, I'm going to hand over the reins to you. We're going to jump into this and we're going to get into today's session and through the workshop.
All right. So let me share my screen here. And can we see my screen?
Yep.
I'm going to hide Facebook and get a repeat of everything that I'm showing. So minimize. All right, cool. So let's kind of dive in today, guys. As we go through, the conversation for today, we're primarily going to be talking about creating annual objectives and the basically components of doing that. We're going to give you an overview of what the Titan operating system is, what it's not, and then just a general clarity around why you may or may not have been struggling to build a team, right? So for this entire next week, that's going to be the focus. And today it's primarily going to be on annual objectives. Now, the reason we're focusing and starting on annual objectives and just company planning in general, it's primarily because no one actually does it. Everyone, says they have objectives, but actually, let's do this. In the chat, tell me if you have documented, in other words, they're written down, you have annual objectives for 2022 that are written down, documented, and your entire team can read those and find a brief explaining what those annual objectives are. You have that in your business. Just go ahead and put it in the chat. All right, seeing a lot of no's, a few yeses. All right, cool.
Couple what's an annual objectives.
Yep, we're going to explain that. All right, so the vast majority of you, it's a no, right? And this is kind of the start of the problem. The reason we have this conversation on day one, talking about annual objectives. Tomorrow we'll talk about quarterly initiatives, monthly goals, etc. But the whole point of starting today is if you don't know where your company is headed and you don't tell your team where your company is headed, how in the world are they going to know how to get you to where you want to go if you can't even answer that question for them? Okay, so that's what we're starting with this conversation today, and it's going to be the primary focus. So I have 2 demos for you and 2 exercises for you to follow along with. So let's dive in. So what is the Titan operating system framework? All right, I do want to give you an overview of that, but before we dive into the actual components, I want to explain to you what it actually takes to run a highly effective team. All right, so first and foremost, which is the primary conversation for today and tomorrow, excellent, not just communication systems, not just Slack, but excellent communication systems are required to run a highly effective team. If your team can't communicate up the chain of command, down the chain of command, and then across it, you're going to struggle really hard to find competent people. And it's not that they're incompetent. They simply don't know how to get the information they need. There's no way for them to remove blockers in their day-to-day, tactics and actions. So that's the first thing. The next is documented company plans actually provide clarity on what your company is trying to achieve for the year. So we've already covered that, and that was the reason I asked the question for you guys to answer in the chat box. The next part of this is going to be documented roles, okay? When you have every single member of your team with a role document that explains what they're supposed to be doing, what KPIs they're supposed to be tracking, and how they measure success for their specific role, they can actually excel. they can actually do a fantastic job because it's incredibly clear what their job actually is. But if you're constantly just throwing things at your team, say, hey, I need this, hey, I need that, hey, can you work on this now? They have no idea what they're supposed to be doing. They're waiting on you to constantly tell them, and that's why they're less effective than what they could be. All right. And then we're going to talk about org charts. And this is where you talk about the hierarchy. Okay. Hierarchy reduces overwhelm because it ensures that the person at the bottom of your org chart speaks to their supervisor. That supervisor speaks to their supervisor and all the way up to you as the owner. It allows you to not have to manage 25 people. It allows you to be able to only have to manage, a few, which is the idea here, right? With this system, you guys can actually completely remove yourself from the day-to-day operations in your business. That's what I've done in my business. And you can do that by setting a hierarchy. Okay. We're also going to be talking about scorecards. All right. And scorecards, we have a few examples for you. We have some for you to take home. For you Titan members, you'll get all of them. There are a lot of them. And the whole purpose of a scorecard is actually show if you're getting the results that you're trying to achieve. Okay. If you set goals and you have your team go out and do this thing, but you're not actually keeping score of whether or not it's successful or not, you're going to be making decisions based on how you feel rather than actual data. And nothing is more dangerous than that. Emotional decisions in your business will kill your business. All right. So we're going to set up scorecards to make sure that doesn't happen. And then finally, the one thing I want you guys to take home when we get to this topic is hiring and onboarding is a process. It is not an event. The vast majority of you that struggle to find good people, have people that are effective within, the first quarter, as opposed to 6 months or more, which is the corporate average, is because you treat hiring as an event. I need to hire a PPC manager. I'm going to go to Google. I'll find one. I hire this agency and then I forget about it, right? That is not how you should hire people. There's an entire process for this, and we're going to go through that towards the end of the week. So in a nutshell, this is what the Titan operating system is going to deliver. All right. So let's break it down into 7 different components. All right. And we're going to talk about what we're going to focus on today. So the first thing we have to do, right, when we're setting up this framework in our business, is we need to identify our why. Now, again, this is not going to be the focus for this particular week, but you do need to understand how the framework works in its entirety so that you can see how the pieces fit together. So the why is where you're going to set your 3-year vision. And this is for you. This is only for you. It is the reason why you, are building your company in the first place, but it's the expectation for how you want your life to look 3 years from now. All right. So when things get hard in your business, this is your fallback to get yourself out of it and give you the, cojones to actually move on and solve the problem and continue working hard. Okay. Now, today, we're going to focus primarily on the what. And the what is going to be your company vision and your annual objectives. Okay. I'm going to break down what each of those are, and I have examples and a walkthrough of how to actually create those. So we're going to focus on that today. We also have the how, right? If we know what we want to accomplish, we also have to figure out how we're going to get there. And this, I think, is where a lot of people struggle. Henry Ford said, thinking is the hardest work there is. That's probably why so few people do it, or something like that, right? And the reason being is when you're figuring out what you want to accomplish and trying to figure out how you're going to get there, it requires a lot of thought, a lot of patience, and a lot of teamwork and conversations amongst your team to actually do that. And the cool part is you can actually systemize this whole thing. So when we talk about having meetings with your team for your annual objectives, your quarterly initiatives, your monthly goals, weekly commitments, and then ultimately your daily tasks, these are just dedicated meetings. So a lot of you are looking at this right now and thinking, dude, I'm not meeting with my team every single day. But I would push back on that and simply say, your team is wasting more time wondering what the hell they're supposed to be doing than the time it would take for you to just have a 15-minute stand-up meeting with them every day. All right. So don't balk when you see that there's a meeting structure in place. That's part of having effective communication systems. Okay. And then we're going to talk about who, which is where we break down the org chart and role documents. Pretty excited to share this. We have org charts for multiple stages of the business, and we have role documents for every single role on that org chart. I think there's about 15 to 17 different role documents with, what that person was supposed to be doing, what the responsibilities are, expected accomplishments, KPIs, etc. All right. So we'll break that down later in the week. And then measuring success. This is where we talk about scorecards, right? So scorecards, project management, things like Slack, Asana, ClickUp, whatever. This is a huge component of making sure that your team is able to communicate on the day-to-day basis, right? And then finally, the last part of the Titan operating system framework is hiring and onboarding. And as I said earlier, this is a process. So we have things like hiring briefs, and we have onboarding documents and an onboarding process, so that when we bring someone into our organization, we can take them from not knowing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, which is basically what happens when everybody gets hired, to going through that onboarding process and being able to say, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I know what results I'm supposed to get, and I can actually excel at doing that. So in a nutshell, this is the Titan operating system framework. So with no further ado, let's dive into what we're going to talk about today, which is going to be primarily focused around the number 2 bullet here, which is your company vision and annual objectives. And in order to do that, we also have to talk about our annual meeting. So we'll start there. So what are communication systems, right? This is everything from meeting with your team to documenting your company plans and making sure that your team knows how to get the information they need to do their job, how to remove blockers so that they don't sit there and be like, man, I can't figure this out, but I can't get a hold of, the owner or you. And so they're just going to sit on their thumbs, right, and waste time. So what this looks like, all right, the end goal, we're not going to complete all of these things today, but over the next 2 days, this is essentially what we're going to have. All right, so you see at the top here, we have annual objectives. Okay, these annual objectives are something we're going to talk about today in a lot more detail. Every annual objective that you have in your business gets broken down into a quarterly initiative. Okay, and it could be multiple, right? This one, annual objective could be broken down into multiple quarterly initiatives. Each quarterly initiative is then broken down into a monthly goal, and each monthly goal is broken down into a weekly commitment. And then what you do every day should be pulling from this weekly commitment, okay? And this is everyone on your team. This isn't just you. It isn't just a few people. This framework is meant to work for every single member of your team. Everyone who's a part-time or full-time employee in your business will be following along with this process. So I'll show you a couple more examples here. So just a realistic example, right? On Amazon, annual objective might be reach $4 million in annual net revenue, okay? Basically $4 million in revenue, right? If we're going to break that down and say, okay, well, how would I do that, right? What is the quarterly initiative, or what should the quarterly initiative be to actually accomplish this? One of those might be place an order for a new crib sheet product line. Okay, that would be a quarterly initiative, right? The reason it's an initiative, because you can't just go do that. You have to do a series of things in order to actually place that order. You have to do the product research. You have to find suppliers, get quotes, get samples, find product designs. You have to do all these things, right? So this is something you hope to achieve over the quarter, which will help you get more revenue, right? Launching products helps you boost your revenue, right? So a monthly goal for that quarterly initiative might be curate and confirm patterns for a new crib sheet product line. Okay, now it's still a little broad. We need to break that down a little further. So the weekly commitments for that might be, we need to go to Buy Buy Baby and Babies R Us and look at the popular color palettes and patterns that are on the shelves, right? If these are the things showing up in a baby nursery and also on a baby registry, we should probably launch products that are consistent with that so that they match what the customer is buying for their baby shower, right? Another one might be set up a 99 Designs campaign for the designer color palette that we find that we want to, be like. All right. So this is an example of what the end result is going to be after tomorrow. Today, we're going to stick to quarterly or annual objectives, but I want you to understand why we're doing this. We're not setting annual objectives just like, okay, cool, there's our goal for the year. We're setting this because every single thing you do in your business moving forward should tie back up to that annual objective. If it does not, you seriously need to ask yourself why you're doing it. All right. So this is the end result for this particular part of the conversation today. All right. And when we're doing daily tasks, these are just pulling from what our weekly commitments are, right? So we don't really need to talk too much about that, but every weekly commitment just becomes a daily task. All right. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow. One more example before we dive into it, right? Let's say you need to reach and maintain a 25% contribution margin. All right. Think of contribution margin like profit. All right. So a quarterly initiative might be, we need to reach within 3% tacos, or our tacos target within 3% on our sponsored products for each product line. Okay, that's a pretty big initiative. If you have 100 products, you're definitely going to break that down because you're not going to be able to optimize every single product for the quarter. But let's say you only have 3 product lines. This should be relatively simple to do in a quarter, or at least strive to do. So a monthly goal would say, okay, we need to adjust and monitor the Swaddle Blanket, Minky Blanket, and Baby Wrap product lines to reduce our tacos. Okay, if we reduce our tacos, we can increase our profit. That's the idea behind this, right? So weekly commitments, PPC audit on the Swaddle Blanket line, make adjustments to the Swaddle Blanket sponsored product campaigns, sponsored brand campaigns, and sponsored display campaigns. All right, and what I'm doing today, I'm doing an audit on the entire Swaddle Blanket product line, and I'm making sure that I have a really good head on my shoulders as to what is happening for this product. So again, in this example, you can see how what we're doing today aligns with what we're doing for the week, which is what aligns with for the month, for the quarter, and then all the way back up to the annual objective. Okay. The biggest thing that people struggle with is even if they do set annual objectives, they have no way of figuring out what they need to do today in order to achieve that, right? Or they just try things, right? The whole, throw mud at the wall to see what sticks. That's generally what people do. We're not doing that in our business. We cannot create predictable growth in our business by throwing mud at the wall. So this is how we're going to break things down. I have a template for you guys, and I will give you access to this. I'm going to walk through it live today on the call, but you all will get access to this spreadsheet here. I'll walk through it in more detail, but essentially what you're looking at is you have your annual objectives, you have your quarterly initiatives that align with these annual objectives, and then down below, there's not enough room, but you would have a monthly goal and all of the weekly commitments for that goal, which aligns with the quarterly initiative, which aligns with the annual objective. Okay. I'm going to give you this template. It's something everyone can use. It's very simple to use, and it will allow you to document your company plan all in one place so that you have it, your team has it, and everyone is aligned with what your company should be working on. All right. So let's dive into the actual meeting itself. So if we're going to create annual objectives, we need to actually have a meeting to do this, right? This isn't something we're doing willy-nilly. We're just like, hey, on the back of a napkin, I think I'm going to decide I'm going to 10X my business because I read Grant Cardone's 10X book, right? That's what a lot of people do. They're like, hey, 10X, right? And that's great and all for some things, but these annual objectives you have to share with your team. And if you tell your team they need to 10X their output for the same pay, they're going to tell you to essentially to F off. All right. I know this because I've done it in my own business, and it backfires. So let's dive into the actual annual meeting. What's the purpose of it, how we're going to approach it, and what it looks like. So we've already gone through this, but as I said earlier, we are in the what part of this conversation. Okay. So we're setting our company vision and we're setting our annual objectives, and we do that on our annual company meeting. All right. So what is the actual agenda for this meeting? Now, I'm just going to give you the high level overview here. We do have a meeting agenda for you that you can download after this call, but this is the high level overview of what it looks like. So we need to
jump in here, Justin, if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wrapped up my my annual meeting, so I'm fresh off of it just about a week ago. And yeah, I can tell you guys that for those of you guys not doing this, we were actually doing an internal poll before we even started this. This is one of the most important things you can do to align the entire company. I think I told some of the Titans that are in here, you've already heard me say this, but I've learned in my experience in my entrepreneurial pursuits. I'm on my 5th multi-million-dollar business, and I don't know how many failed businesses that I've started, probably dozens. There's one skill that I could point to that I could say I could always continue to sharpen to produce the results more than any other skill. And it's not copywriting, it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's not Facebook ads. It's the art of aligning and motivating a group of people together towards solving problems. That's literally it. That's the one thing that can bring you all the way up at every single scale. Once you're past the one-person team, that's basically your number one focus. How do I get a group of people to work on the same problem and be motivated to solve that problem all together? And this annual meeting is perhaps one of the greatest tools, if not the greatest tool to make that happen. It sets the culture and sets the alignment for the entire year, for the entire team. It's like a super high leverage thing. We were talking earlier about the one thing. This is one of those things that affects all other things if you do it really well. So yeah, I mean, Justin, I can walk through each of them, or you can if you want, but you could just click through them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the thing that happens here, the one word that represents what happens on this meeting is the word alignment. Like I was saying, I wanted to talk about this because I'm fresh off mine, and I'm still like riding the high from it. It was absolutely amazing. There were tears, there was anger, there was excitement, there was joy. Everything comes out at this meeting because everything that's been bottled up the entire year, has space to come out, and it's your job to give it that space. So the first thing that you're doing is reviewing the last year and holding yourself accountable to the last year. So you look at the objectives you set last year, and this is critical because without this, nobody takes the objectives seriously. If they don't know in their mind that there's going to be a time in the future where you publicly call out whether or not this was done, then it's not really that big a deal whether it's done or not. Money motivates people, but what motivates people even more is recognition and status. And once you have like a company with multiple people in there, one of the biggest ways you can motivate people is through either giving or not giving recognition. And this is what gives the annual objective actual teeth, what gives it power and makes it actually work, in my opinion, in my experience, is this. You review it, and then you have to say, this was done. And then if it was done, you recognize the people who made it happen. And it's usually multiple people. And if it was not done, this is where you actually investigate and find out why. You dig way in and say, why was this done and why was it not? And that's this entire section. Then the next section, after reviewing last year's objectives, if you want to click, Justin.
Oop. Wasn't working. There we go.
Yeah, that's when you align with the why. And this is a perfect timing because you just went over what you actually did. So now you can go through the actual principles that guide the company. This, honestly, this one part, and if some of you guys who've read those books before, they have whole chapters on this. This could be an entire presentation in and of itself. But like Justin said, we have to whiz through some of this, and you guys are going to get handouts throughout the rest of the 5 days that help you with this stuff. But you have to go over, align the entire company through your own sort of mass hypnosis. You go through each of the principles that guide the company, the values that guide the company, and most importantly, that vision statement that Justin was talking about earlier, and state it for the whole company. And the coolest thing that's not in this slide, but you'll see it in the handout, because we're actually going to give you guys at the end of this day a detailed agenda of how to run this annual meeting. This is super powerful. The thing that actually drives it home and makes it not just words is you highlight actions and highlight people that either exemplified or didn't exemplify that principle or that company vision. And it's good to do both. You know, it's like training a dog. Like, there's positive reinforcement with pets and treats, and negative reinforcement, shunning or turning your back to the dog. And if doing both is the most powerful, then they know when they do something that's bad, they get punished for it. When they do something that's good, they get rewarded for it. And not that you have to treat your employees like dogs, but it really works. Positive and negative reinforcement. One of the books that wasn't shown earlier, that's one of my favorite management books of all time, is called The 1 Minute Manager. The book is about a 2-minute read, and it's all about this simple thing of recognition, positive and negative reinforcement. So in this part, you use positive and negative reinforcement through examples, and you come with little stories. So-and-so went the extra mile by having their daughter test out the products and make the features better. That exemplifies our culture of perfection or accountability or whatever it is that you're trying to exemplify. And then that drives home to the people and the team what the company actually means, what it really stands for. Then you can get into the actual nitty-gritties, and that's where you review the KPIs of the company. So we reviewed the objectives earlier on. This is where we review the actual KPIs and the numbers, and each one should have a target. So you're going to hold the company and hold yourself and hold everyone else accountable. And you're going to go through and say, this was hit. Congratulations, so-and-so and so-and-so. This was not what happened. And then distill what happened. This is so once you do this, then the next whole year, your entire team knows that there's going to come a time where they have to say whether or not it was done. And if there's not that time, then they're not going to take it as seriously. But now that you set this culture, they know. And it becomes like a really big deal. After this, then these next two, the 5 core pillar exercise and the SWOT exercise, Justin's going to go deep into this. So I won't go crazy on that now. But the purpose of these 2 exercises is basically group think, group brainstorming. So before we had alignment, we're getting everyone aligned and holding them accountable to the last year's goals. Now we're actually going to be thinking as a group brain, not as a single brain. And this is one in another book that we didn't show earlier called Principles by Ray Dalio. Some of you guys might know it. Type in the chat if you recognize that book or you've read that. This is one of my favorite books of all time as well. That was the primary way that Ray Dalio led Bridgewater to be the biggest hedge fund in the world at one time, was by leveraging groupthink, allowing the company to think as one through a bunch of different methodologies. But these are two of the most powerful. The 5 core pillars exercise, which is just for Amazon businesses. That's why this system is built for you guys. And the SWOT exercise, which means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the handout that you guys are going to get is going to show you how to go through that. This allows all of the problems to come up, all of the opportunities to come up, all of the domains of the business to be addressed. And then you have all of this raw material to work with from everybody contributing problems, issues that need to be addressed, opportunities we want to tackle, and every domain of the business. That then all those ideas become the raw material that you use to form into the objectives and the initiatives for the next year and the next 4 quarters. So this framework works. I can tell you because I literally just ran this exact framework with an entire team, and it works well. You have the accountability, then you have the groupthink, then you solidify that groupthink into the next year's objectives, and then discuss and finalize them, and then close the meeting.
Exactly. So on this, for this week, right, this is a workshop. Now, ideally, this annual meeting is what you go through in order to create your annual objectives. I want you guys to actually go through the motions with me in the next 2 exercises we're about to do to get this done. Even though you may not be able to bring in, the correct team members into this meeting, I want you to go through that process because it does take practice. It takes time to learn and figure out, okay, what is the proper way to create an annual objective? I'm going to give you some guidelines in the next few slides and in a few demos that we're going to go through. But this is the process for your annual meeting. You're going to have a similar process for quarterly and monthly, and then a bit of a different process for weekly, and then obviously your daily stand-up meetings. So the one thing I want you to keep in mind is, yes, this is what you need to set up in your business. We're going to give you the agenda so that you can do this in your business. But for your action items for today, I really want you to focus on creating these annual objectives later this afternoon or this morning, whatever time it is for you in the world. So
those of you guys that are really ambitious, you can run one. The timing of this is perfect because you're at the end of the year.
Exactly.
If you are really ambitious, you really want to act on this, run an annual meeting. We're literally going to give the agenda for how to do it.
Yeah, 100%. So the main, or a few best practices, right, for this particular meeting, the idea here is to only have owners and C-suite staff attend. All right. You wouldn't have every single person in your company go to this particular meeting if they can't help answer the questions that this meeting is actually trying to answer, which is, what is your company going to do over the next year? Right. So this is your general best practices. In a perfect world, you'd actually have a retreat for this. But if that's not possible, then you need to schedule 2 to 4 hours to actually run this meeting. Doing it in person is 1,000 times better. But if your company's all over the world and it's just not feasible for you to spend 10 grand or something to get everyone together, then by all means, you can do this virtually. I've done it both ways. In person's better, but 2 to 4 meetings is about the amount of time you're going to need for this meeting. All right. Ideally, you do this 3 weeks before the end of the year, which just so happens to be basically now. So this is perfect timing for you to do your annual meeting, right?
Yes.
And the key to make this more efficient, right? You need to come prepared. So whoever's coming to the meeting, whoever's on your team that is part of this meeting, come prepared with some potential annual objectives, right? We're going to talk about exactly what those are and how to do them in the next few slides. But coming prepared is key. If you show up to this meeting like, I haven't really thought about what we're going to do this, upcoming year, and haven't really thought about what we did this last year, your meeting is going to kind of be crap. All right. So come prepared, super important. And we're going to talk about project briefs tomorrow, but writing a project brief that establishes a clear outcome for each annual objective will be the key to creating quarterly initiatives. All right. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, let's actually dive into this. Let's get to the actual nitty-gritty, the action items that will deliver this for you. So I want to talk about the company vision first, because this is the one thing that, it really aligns your company every year, not just this year. All right. So again, we're still in the what conversation, and we're going to remain there for the remainder of the day. All right. So what is a company vision statement, right? The company vision statement defines the parameters for which a company operates and makes decisions. All right. I know most of you have heard of a vision statement before, so we don't need to spend too much time on this, and not didn't mean to do the play on words here, but it is timeless, right? So the company vision statement should exist for the lifetime of your company. You never accomplish it, but you are always accomplishing it. All right. So you should always be striving to actually complete it. And it has a few components. It describes the purpose for why your company exists. All right. It describes what your company wants to accomplish in an ongoing matter. So there's no end date for this. Your company's always accomplishing this thing. This is the one thing that they exist to do, right? It describes who your company serves. You know, if you sell to, you know, moms, then you shouldn't be launching products for dads. It just doesn't make sense unless you're changing who your company serves. And if that's the case, that's fine. But this aligns your entire team for what the purpose of the company is. And then finally, it describes how your company is going to serve them. For everyone here, that means you're gonna be selling physical products to them. That's how your company is going to serve them. All right. Let's just look at a quick example. All right. So this isn't going to be an action item for you guys to do, but if you are able to write this after this call, then I would love to see what you guys come up with. But as an example, right? Let's say ABC company serves breastfeeding moms who want to make #MomLife easier and look cute at the same time. We'll provide products to our moms that do just that. Our products are attractive, useful, and multifunctional when possible. We understand that being a mom is hard, so our products should make it easier and more enjoyable for mom and baby. We will win awards for our products because of how beautiful and innovative they are. We will also donate our products to charity in order to help as many of our moms as possible. ABC Company is a dominating brand on Amazon that other brands want to be like. We will have best-selling products with the best designs in the industry. So this was actually company vision for the company that I sold a few years ago. And the reason we wrote it this way is because it tells everyone in the organization what our company exists to do. It highlights who we serve. We serve breastfeeding moms. The only thing we do is live and breathe whatever it is they want us to help them with in their own life. Okay, that is what our company lives to do, right? So the company vision aligns everything, or it guides every other decision you make in your business. So when you're creating your annual objectives, knowing exactly what your company stands for is going to make coming up with those objectives a whole lot easier. All right. So before we dive into the actual annual objectives, we have to go through an exercise. All right. We've talked about the company vision, the purpose of that. I think everyone's pretty clear on what a vision statement is and has at least heard of them before. But this is something that you, especially if you're not part of Titan, you are probably not familiar with. We believe here in the Titan Network that there are 5 core pillars of Amazon. Okay. And these 5 pillars represent the main levers in your business. All right. So before we actually set those objectives, we have to identify what these pillars are, what pillars we're strong in, and what pillars we're weak in. This will help dictate what annual objectives and what quarterly initiatives we actually need to do or set up in our business moving forward. Okay. So again, these are the strategic framework for identifying and prioritizing the initiatives in your business. Okay. And I'm going to break this down for you in just a second. So part of your annual meeting agenda is to go through the 5 core pillar exercise, which we're about to do here, and will help you figure out what you need to focus on for the upcoming year and upcoming quarter. All right. So let's dive into this exercise. Maybe. Nope. Here we go. So I want to explain what these are before we actually dive into the exercise. I know there's a good majority of you that are not terribly familiar with what the 5 core pillars are. So I want to explain what they are, why they are what they are, and how you're supposed to grade your business on these 5 core pillars. So,
and then Justin, I think what we'll do is, as you're running through this, guys, go ahead and just quickly take a mental score of where you believe your business is today. So as Justin's kind of running through this, I want you in the chat box to put new product development -2 if it's a 2, launching new products -3 if it's a 3, and start scoring yourself. So write it down on a piece of paper, write down a notepad, and post it in the chat box. And just as a quick check at the end of this, I want to see where you score. So go ahead, Justin.
And so I see some people coming in already with some numbers here. There's only 5, so just so we're clear. So let's walk through what each of these are first, and then we'll break them down. Okay. So the 5 core pillars, we have new product development. We have launching new products or new product launches. We have SKU optimization. And I want to be clear, this is not listing optimization. All right. We're not just updating our listing in this pillar. That may be a component, but it is certainly not the extent of it. All right. We have PPC or Amazon advertising. And then finally, audience utilization. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, these are in order of priority in your business. I'm going to see if I can expand this a little bit so that we can see everything at once. These are in order of priority. So new product development is more important than launching new products, which is more important than optimizing your SKUs, which is more important than PPC, which is more important than building an audience. The reason that is the case, all right, you can't offer your audience anything if you have no products to offer them, okay? You can't advertise if you don't have any products to offer them. You can't optimize any SKUs if you aren't developing products to offer them. You can't launch anything without developing products to launch, okay? So these 5 core pillars are listed in order of importance in your business. And I want to be super clear before moving on into the actual breakdown here. If you are not a 7-figure seller, audience utilization should be something you mostly ignore. All right. I know you may have heard other things in the industry, and that's fine. But for the vast majority of you, if you have less than 5 products or doing less than 7 figures on Amazon, building a list that you offer nothing to or very little to is going to be mostly a waste of your time. Your time would be more valuable spending it on new product development and launching new products, right? Building out your product portfolio is the key when you're a small business. As you get into the 7-figure levels, yes, building an audience, utilizing other people's audiences is incredibly more important, right? Because you actually have something to offer them. You can get them to develop new products. You can get them to launch products. You can get them to rebuy other things that you've also sold them. So the way this is meant to work, when you're on your annual agenda or your annual meeting, and we're going through this exercise, the purpose is to look at these 5 core pillars. These are the 5 main levers in your business. If you did nothing else but these things, your business would grow. Every single one of these pillars aligns with increasing revenue and increasing profitability in your business. That is the purpose of these pillars. Okay. There's nothing shiny or fancy about this. Every one of you understands that to develop new products, you need to launch them. Once you've launched them, you need to maintain profitability. The biggest lever for profitability is Amazon advertising, and you can build an audience to make the first 4 of these go faster and become more predictable. Okay. So what I want you guys to do, and we're going to do this kind of live right now, is we're going to kind of read through. Let me see if I can shrink this up a little bit to put them on here. All right. So the first core pillar, right? New product development. You're supposed to grade yourself a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in each of these. Okay. And this will basically show you or tell you and the rest of your team what are the actual results we're getting in our business for each of these pillars. Okay. I don't care how awesome you think you could be doing or should be doing. If you keep running out of stock, will the actual results say you keep running out of stock? Okay. I don't care what your systems are. This process here is not about systems. It is about the actual results. All right. There's a whole review for systems that we'll talk about next. So let's just run through this so you guys get a feel for what we're talking about here. So when we're talking about new product development, if you score a 1, it means that we do not have a list of product ideas to develop in the next 12 months, nor do we know how many products we should launch to meet our revenue goals. Okay. In other words, you have no products in your product pipeline and you have no idea how many products you should be launching in general. All right. If you were to score yourself a 2, we know how many products we need to launch and when, but have not finished identifying what those products are. All right. For the vast majority of people, you sit within 1 and 2. Right? That's just the name of the game. This is kind of the last thing that everyone does, especially as a newer seller. You're so focused on this that you forget to launch new products. If you're a 3, our product ideas are being validated with suppliers and samples are being produced, but we haven't placed any new product orders yet. All right. A 4, we have new products currently in production and have other products that are order ready for production this quarter. And a 5, we have products in production now, ready to produce later this quarter. And we have a list of more product ideas that we can use for the next 6 to 12 months. So in order to be a 5, you have to basically have an entire product pipeline ready to go for the next 12 months. Okay, that is the intention here. So for you to say that your business is crushing it in new product development, you have to know what you're launching today, what you're launching later this quarter, and what you're launching in the next 6 to 12 months. All right. And when I say no, I mean like you validated the product, you validated the profitability, you validated the samples, everything is order ready. Okay. Order ready means that all you have to do is say, hey, supplier, send me 2,000 units. They know what you're talking about. They've already got the sample or the golden sample ready to go. They know exactly what to do. All right. The vast majority of people develop products when they feel like they need them. But unfortunately, it takes 3 to 6 months just to get a new product to your door. So if you're not always 3, 6, 9 months ahead of schedule in terms of your planning, your new product development is going to be a 1, 2, or a 3. All right. That's just the name of the game. So really quick, when it comes to new product development, I can see some of you guys already, drop the numbers in here, but how would you rate yourself based on your actual results today for new product development? Are we thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? All right, go ahead and drop it in there. What you think? All right, we got a 2, a 1, 3, 1, 3, a 2, 4, 2. All right, I like seeing the 4. Nice, another 4, couple 4s. Very good. All right, love it. Appreciate you guys. So what this means, right? And the whole purpose of this exercise, when we are looking at these things and we're grading ourselves, your business has to do all these things, right? For the most part, the first 4 pillars, your business has to do them. If you scored low, right, 1 through 3 in new product development, that means you need to build a system that can actually make this possible. All right, that's the whole point of this exercise and why we're looking at it on our annual planning, and we're going to look at it on our quarterly planning as well. So let's run through the next one really quick, so make sure everyone really understands how this works. So launching new products, all right, and just for complete clarity here, or for just so I'm being very clear, this is the number one thing you can do to grow your business. Nothing else on this list matters more than launching new products. The only reason launching new products isn't the first one is because you can't launch them if you don't create them. Okay, so if you want to grow 100% year over year in your business, this is how you do it. All right, so let's grade ourselves on this one. A 1, we are not launching any products right now. I don't care what else you have in the pipeline. If you're not launching products every single month, your business is not growing as fast as it could. Now, for those of you that are just starting out, those of you that are below 7 figures, yes, you're probably not launching products all the freaking time. That's totally understandable. But for those of you that have been selling for any length of time, you know, into that 7-figure or close to that 7-figure mark, you should be launching products as fast as humanly possible. All right. So 1, we are not launching any products right now. 2, we're launching products, but we are not sustaining keyword rank, sales, and our review velocity or ratings. 3, some product launches are sustaining keyword rank and sales and review velocity and ratings, but results are inconsistent. In other words, your system for launching products is flawed, or the products you're picking are flawed. All right. Products are mostly being launched successfully, but we need to improve the time and or cost it takes to sustain keyword rank, sales velocity, and our review velocity and ratings. And then 5, we're launching products every month and quarter and are predictably sustaining keyword rank, sales, and review velocity for all of our launches. All right, I can already see some of you guys have already dropped in the number here. So go ahead and do the same thing for me. So for product launches, what would you rate yourself? It's typically very hard to rate highly on product launches if you didn't also rank highly for product development. That's just a general rule of thumb. All right, you can't launch things you don't have, and that's just the way it is. So I'm seeing actually a lot lower numbers here. Very few people over 4 or over 3. I actually only see 1 over 3. So now, all right. So moving on here. So SKU optimization, Amazon PPC, and audience utilization. Is this helpful? Do you guys want me to go through every single one of these? Is this what we want? Is everyone enjoying this? All right, cool.
Good job being realistic, guys. I'm seeing a lot of 1s and 2s, and that's what you want. You want to know where you suck, where you could get better. Once you're a 5, you're just admitting that there's nothing that you can do now to be better in that domain. So exactly, it's not good to rate yourself a 5.
Awesome. So all right, let's just keep going then. So SKU optimization, a 1. Our SKUs keep running out of stock and or are losing money. We're unable to see good results trying to improve revenue and profitability. All right. 2, we're staying in stock, but not optimizing our SKUs to maximize revenue and profitability due to low stock or inaction. All right. 3, we've identified and are working to increase revenue and profitability of low performing SKUs, but we're not working to dominate the market for our top performers. 4, SKUs that don't meet revenue and profit expectations are discontinued. We maintain revenue and profit expectations on all SKUs, but are not seeing predictable results dominating our product's niche. 5, all SKUs go through a routine revenue and profit analysis. We dominate the market where possible, and we can increase revenue and profits with predictable results. I would be absolutely shocked if anyone scored a 5 on SKU optimization. In my opinion, this is by far the most difficult pillar to do incredibly well because it is very time consuming in practice. You'll notice there was nothing in here about updating your listing, right? SKU optimization could be everything from renegotiating your cost of goods sold with suppliers to fixing your supply chain to updating your listing. It could be changing your photos, changing your bullets, whatever. But SKU optimization's primary focus is increasing revenue and profit. And there's a ton of things that you can do within that. So again, it looks like we got quite a few. We got some 3s in here. We got some 1s, 2s, 1s. All right. Yep. Darren, I love the honesty there. I ran out of stock twice, so giving myself a 1. That's perfect. dude, your business can grow so much faster when you stay in stock. I know that doesn't sound revolutionary, but I had the same problem for the first 3 years of my business. We were constantly low on stock or running out of stock, and it just hampered or stifled our growth. So thanks for being honest. So, all right. Number 4, Amazon PPC, right? This is the one everyone focuses on. Everyone thinks every problem in their business comes down to their PPC. So let's find out. So a 1, ACOS and tacos and other metrics are not meeting targets. We're losing money and are not spending enough to see the results we want. Not all products have campaigns set up. All right. This basically means you're not even paying attention to PPC. 2, all products have campaigns set up and some ad placements. We're losing money on PPC, but working on improving some of the campaigns. 3, tacos for the whole account is within 3% of target and our ad spend is remaining steady, but we aren't utilizing all ad placements Amazon has to offer for each SKU. All right. Now you need to be realistic on this one because you may not want to offer every ad placement for each SKU, and that would certainly be okay. 4, we are increasing ad spend and breaking even across all products as a whole, but not quite breaking even on a per SKU level. We have campaigns set up for all applicable ad placements Amazon has to offer. All right, so 4 is pretty solid. 5, we're maximizing ad spend at our target tacos on an individual SKU level, and we're utilizing all available Amazon advertising placements. So I see the numbers coming through. Looks like we got 2s, mostly 2s, it looks like for this one. Richard Brown, a 5. Nice, dude. Love that. Very awesome. Lots of 2s, lots of 1s. Yeah, so this is a hard one, right? We're going to talk about how to set goals to actually solve this problem, okay? It all starts in the planning, guys. All right, last one here, audience utilization. Now, like I said earlier, if you're not in that, if you have less than 5 products or less than 7 figures in revenue, audience utilization is going to be something you mostly want to ignore because the vast majority of people just score 1 on this one, right? And once you realize what that would mean from an action standpoint, you'll realize why I'm telling you to ignore it. So audience utilization, if you score 1, we don't have a list or the list is so cold, we should start over. This is the majority of people. You have an insert in your listing, you get people to an email list and you've never talked to them ever in 3 years. All right, that list is completely pointless. It doesn't even exist, or it might as well not even exist. 2, we're actively building our list, but are not utilizing it. That's unfortunate, right? Very similar scenario. 3, our list is growing, but we're only successfully using it for product ideas or launching products or reselling people on our list. 4, our list is growing, but we're only successfully using it for 2 out of the 3 uses, which is product ideas, launching products, or reselling products to them. And then a 5 means you're using your list to launch products, come up with new product ideas, and to sell them other products that you have to offer. All right. So I see the numbers coming in again. Looks like we got some 1s, 2s. We got a 4 in here. Nice. Well done.
I'm surprised at how high these numbers are, honestly. Expected all 1s.
Yep. So I like it. So it's great that you guys are, for those of you that were able to hit a 3, like honestly, that's fantastic. It takes a long time to build a list that can actually be useful. So it's really awesome to see it. And the 4s as well. That's fantastic. So now that we've done this, what the heck was the point? So let's go ahead and create a fictitious example of how well we're doing in our business. So let's assume that you scored yourself a 1, 2, 1, 3, and 3. All right. Like I said at the beginning, these are prioritized from most important to least. So if you have 2 1s and that is your lowest score, you're going to pick the thing at the top or the most top left corner, which is product development. Okay. What you basically said in your analysis is that I'm really bad at new product development. I'm really bad at maintaining profitability and revenue on the stuff that I've also launched. However, a lot of times your ability to do SKU optimization is the result of the products you picked weren't very good in the first place. So what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize things from top to bottom. So now that we've kind of gone through this process, everyone's graded ourselves, right? What I want you to do is look at your numbers. Whatever the lowest number is going to be something you need to focus on in the next quarter. And then if you can start it on your annual objective as well. And we're going to break that down here in a minute. So go ahead and tell me what your lowest score was. Was it new product development? Was it launching new products, SKU optimization, PPC, or audience utilization?
SKU optimization, new product development, all.
Hey, I love the
all
honesty. I
want.
love the honesty.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So we're seeing a pretty good variety in here. A lot of new products, a lot of SKU optimization. All right, so
A lot of
putting this into
audience
practice.
development.
Yeah. And that's pretty typical. So I want to put this into practice really quick before we move on. So you're on your annual meeting, you've done this analysis, and you realize, okay, let's say new product development is something that I really struggle with. Over the next year, this should be something that you solve. Should it take you the entire year to solve it? No, it should not. But at least when we get down to the quarterly and monthly goals that we're going to set, we need to start solving this problem. But the reason we do this before we set our annual objectives is that so we have an objective view on exactly where our business stands. All right. As your business grows, these numbers will move up and down. Just because you're a 3 today doesn't mean you're going to be a 4 tomorrow. You could go back to being a 1, right? That is the expectation. If you get really good at launching products, you may run out of products to launch, which means even though you were maybe a 4 or 5 in new product development, maybe now you're a 1 again because you fell off the bandwagon. So again, this is actual results. It is not, the system itself. Now, for the purpose of this week, I'm not going to go through this particular training or this particular tab here, which is the actual systems overview. If you want to look at it, you can. It's pretty straightforward. It's basically, do you have a system, and is that system delegated to the right person or not? Right. And that's how you would grade yourself on this one. But again, for this week, we're not going to focus on it. As part of your action items, I'm going to give you guys action items at the end of this. And I want to quickly walk through what the action item is. You guys have already done a really good job of grading yourselves on exactly what number you are at the present moment. But it's not enough to know that, hey, I'm not very good at this. You need to know why. Okay. So the expectation for you after this call and one of the action items is we go through each of these tabs. So each of the pillars, right, are listed here in the tabs below. And what you're going to do is I want you to basically do everything from row 2 down to row 50. All right. Now it's not as many things as it looks. It's only actually like 2 things. But basically go ahead and grade yourself the way you did earlier, right? If you gave yourself a 1, cool, put a 1 up here. I want you to put who owns this. If you don't have a team, your name goes here. All right. So, and if that's the case, your name's probably going to go in every single one of these pillars, and that's okay. If you do have a team, put who the department owner is. And then in the next column, you're going to put who else is involved. All right. Now, the important part and why we're actually doing this, or why I want you to do this as part of the action items. If we're going to solve a problem in our business and we know the problem is we're not getting the results we want, that means most likely the issue is with the process or system that we have set up. Okay. And in order to solve this, we need to actually know what in the world we're doing. So you see in this example, I've got basically a rough outline of what the current process is for new product development for this brand, right? So this is just the steps detailed out, right? They're not incredibly detailed. It's just like this for you and your team to say, okay, how do we do new product development? So at least new product ideas, or at least 20 new product ideas are maintained in the product pipeline spreadsheet at all times, right? Once we've got that, those product ideas get validated using, Titan tools. We confirm profitability with the suppliers. We validate those. We run a 99 designs contest to get designs. We present a mock-up to our Facebook group and so on. Okay. I want you to actually write the process for how you currently do each one of the pillars. For some of you, this will be the first time you've ever documented a process in your business. Even if you don't have one, or you don't think you have one, everyone already has a process. It may not be very good. It may not be effective at all, but you do have a process for this. So part of the action items, and I'll give you a summary at the end, is going to be go through, write down the process for each of the pillars, write down who's involved in that process. And then I want you to spend some time thinking about how you can improve that particular pillar. You have to work on all the pillars all the time, but for the one that you scored the lowest score and the one that's closest to the top in the list, that's going to be something you focus on throughout the year, okay, to try to improve that number from a 1 to a 2, 2 to 3, and so on. All right. So I'm going to cut this off for this part of the conversation. I want to get into creating annual objectives. I want to show you guys how we actually do this with calculations, with predictability, and without overwhelming our team. So with no further ado, let's hop back over into the slides.
And guys, while Justin's loading that up, give us some feedback in the chat box. Is this giving you clarity on measuring kind of where you are today, areas for improvement, and taking kind of a sober look at where it is you need to focus the kind of viewpoint before setting the objectives? Yeah, cool. Justin, people loving it in the chat box, getting really good feedback there. So let's keep rolling.
Love it. I see a question from Mark. It says, I already have products. Why would I focus on launching new ones if I just need to sell more of my other ones? And honestly, it's a fantastic question. And if I were to ask you guys, go ahead and tell me in the chat. If I were to tell you, hey, if you didn't launch any products in your business at all, could you double the size of your company every year for the next 3 to 5 years? There's not a single one of you who would be able to do that. So the reason, it's highly unlikely, Mark. I'm not going to argue with you about it. But the point is, for the vast majority of people, you can't go from 1 million to 2 million to 3 million to whatever year over year without launching any products. So that's why it's so important. Now, to your point, you should absolutely focus on the stuff you currently have. I'm not saying you stop doing that. You have to keep doing that. But the prioritization is simply, okay, if I am, scoring a 1 here and a 3 here, then let's focus on the thing that's going to help us improve our company's growth year over year. We want to try to maximize that company or year over year growth. So let's move into the next part of this conversation. So what are we actually going to achieve? What are the actual annual objectives that we currently have? All right. So what are they? What do they look like? Let's actually figure this out. So annual objectives are the strategic guideposts for every other tactical decision you make in your business. Okay. So every tactic in your business is dictated by the strategy you set with an annual objective. All right. The annual objective will determine what actions you take for the upcoming year. All right. They are strategic or a data-driven target, and these are not tactical. All right. We're not saying, a tactic is something where, I'm going to go cook dinner, right? That's a tactic. But, preparing dinner for the next, or preparing a meal plan for the next month would be more strategic, right? Actually, that's a terrible example. Help me out here. I had something in my head and then I lost it.
For annual objectives?
Yeah. So explain the difference between something that is strategic versus something that is tactical.
Yeah, tactical is down to like the day, the week. These are the things that you're actually doing on a daily basis. It's something you could have on a list that you actually do. It'd be like review Etsy for the top 10 products that are most popular for our avatar. But something strategic isn't something that you can do in a day. It's something that involves other tactics. So the tactic that would be related, the strategy that would be related to that tactic would be find out our next, determine our next product to launch. That's not something
generally the strategy is what you need to do, and the tactics, how are you going to do it? That's generally the difference.
All right. So when we're setting our annual objectives, what I want you guys to keep in mind, the time horizon on this should be 9 to 12 months to completion. All right. Now, the reason it's 9 to 12 months is because we want our team to actually complete it, right? We do not want to set our team up to be a failure, right? If you set annual objectives that realistically are going to take 18 to 24 months to complete, just because you want to have a big, hairy, audacious goal, you're just telling your team that, hey, not hitting targets is okay. So we want to make sure that these annual objectives are realistic and can be done within that 9 to 12 month time frame. All right. So accomplishing them should be a very clear pass or fail, right? You shouldn't be wondering if we did it or not, right? It's a clear pass fail. Should be very specific. Now, this is key, and this is where a lot of people can really overextend themselves. You should only have 2 to 5 annual objectives. All right. How many you have will be determined by the size of your team and the capability of your team, and then generally the needs of your business. All right. And last thing on this is all team members should be contributing towards these in some form or another. If your team members are working on something that has nothing to do with where your company's trying to go, they probably shouldn't be working on it. All right. So best practices before we dive in. So you must know what you accomplished in the past to predict what you are going to accomplish in the upcoming year. This is the number one thing that people fail at when setting objectives moving forward. If you did $1 million in revenue last year, how much can you do then the next year? Is it 2? Is it 5? Is it 10? How do you know? You need to actually provide data to support the decisions you're making and the things that you're signing your team up to do for the upcoming year. All right. So in order to do this, there was some action items before this event started for you guys to document, the trailing 12 months revenue, contribution margin, net profit, the number of products you currently have, the number of products you've launched, and the size of your team. If you don't have all those things right now, that's okay. There's going to be time to get that. And then you always need to include a revenue target. Okay. There's a few things that are a requirement in the Amazon space. And the reason we're setting them up this way is to focus on the things that matter most. So every year you should have a net revenue annual objective. Okay. Or just revenue objective. You can ignore the net part. It's just a technical term. You're always going to include a profitability target as an annual objective. In this particular case, we're going to be using contribution margin. I'll explain what that is here in a second. All right. And then we need to set 1 to 3 additional objectives based on your team's capability and your team's resources. Okay. So generally, we're going to have anywhere from 2 to 5 objectives. One of those has to be revenue. One of those has to be profitability. All right. And then just last comment on this. So until your company is launching products on a routine basis, then you should have the number of products launched objective each year. All right. We're going to talk about that more in a second, and we're going to explain why. So what is contribution margin? I do not want you guys to get caught up on the technical terminology here. Think of contribution margin as profit. Okay. The actual definition is basically revenue minus cost of goods minus advertising. Okay. So that is what contribution margin is. The reason we're using contribution margin is because I don't think any of you would like your entire team to know what your net profit is in your company. I don't think any of you are opening up your profit and loss statement to your team. So the only way that we can have a profitability target is to use contribution margin. If you just use gross profit, then you'd have a really hard time getting your team to actually get on board with it, because there's not a lot of actions they could actually take to improve that number. But contribution margin, there's quite a bit, because you can focus on the actual cost of goods sold, and you can also focus on lowering your advertising costs or being more efficient with your advertising costs. All right. So you can calculate this by looking at your P&L. I have a cheat sheet for you, and I have a calculator for you. So even if you don't know what your contribution margin is, you're about to find out. Okay. So no worries there. And just for a clear, target, the industry standard is going to be 25% or more. All right. That's what you want your contribution margin to be as a percentage. And again, we're going to look at this as an actual example in a second. So the reason this is the case is if your contribution margin is greater than 25%, it means your potential to have a 20% or more net profit is much higher. Okay. The industry standard for net profit in the Amazon space is 20%. If your net profit is below 15%, your company is virtually unsellable, at least for a decent multiple. All right. So that's where this number comes from. Again, I don't want to get stuck on the actual definition here, but I want to make sure you know what I'm talking about when I say contribution margin. So what do these look like in practice? All right. So you're going to have, or what we're about to create, we're going to create an annual revenue objective. We're going to create an annual contribution margin objective, and we're going to have up to 3 additional objectives based upon your team's capability. Okay. So as I said earlier, if you don't launch products very often, or you haven't even thought about launching any more products, then the number of products to launch per year is going to be an objective. If you're a small business, it's 100% okay to say just 1. That is perfectly okay. But what I want you guys to get into the habit of is always launching products. Your company is always going to be growing if you're always adding more avenues for revenue to it. All right. So as an example, let's break this down. So what I said earlier, I said the only way to know where we're going to get to in the future is to have an example of what happened in the past. All right. Well, let's take some examples here, right? So last year's results. Let's say in your company that you reached $50,000 a month in revenue on Amazon. Your contribution margin was 20%. You launched 2 products and have 3 products total. You're working part-time in the business and you have 2 part-time VAs. All right. So what this tells me is there's no one working full-time in your business and everyone's working part-time, right? That's perfectly fine. This is how everyone starts out. All right. You were able to launch 2 products last year, even though you have a part-time team. That's great. All right. Your revenue and profit are what they are. We're going to take those numbers to help figure out where we're going to be next year. All right. So if this were my business, how would I set my annual objectives? All right. So if I decide, okay, I'm 50K a month in revenue at the moment, we've been growing in revenue every month for the past 4 months. I think realistically, we can hit 100K a month in revenue if I launch some more products. All right. I got pretty good at that with these last 2. They were both successful. I think I can do it again. For a contribution margin target, I'm going to try to hit that 25% margin, right? I'm already at 20, so I'm not terribly far away. And if I can increase that contribution margin to 25%, I will have more money in my bank account in my pocket. All right. Objective 1, again, for a company that's small, the only real objective that we need to have is the number of new products we want to come out with. So for this company, it would be launch 3 new products that produce an average of $15,000 a month in revenue with at least a 22% contribution margin. So I want you guys to also take notice of how specific this other objective is. It isn't just launch 3 new products. You need to set a standard in your business for what types of products you're going to launch. You could launch 3 new products that produce $0 in revenue. That would not be any help. So you need to set a standard of what you're trying to achieve. And in this case, it's $15,000 a month with at least 22% contribution margin. All right. Now let's look at a larger business and what that might entail. Okay. So let's say last year we had $2.2 million in annual revenue on Amazon. All right. Our contribution margin per product was about 22%. We launched 15 new ASINs and we have 33 ASINs total. And we have a team of 3 full-time employees and 3 part-time contractors. All right. So this business is humming along, right? $2.2 million in revenue. We've got really good profitability in our business and we're launching products pretty regularly at this point. So we realistically believe we can double our business, right? Based upon, you know, the number of products that we launched last year and based upon the number of the amount of revenue we generated from those products, we believe we can hit 4 million. All right. Contribution margin, we need to increase that, right? We know that our ad spend is way too high on some products. We can reduce that and increase our contribution margin. So first optional objective would be to expand to and launch all products on Walmart.com. All right. We typically don't recommend anyone branch off into other marketplaces till they, you know, reach a certain level of success on Amazon.com. But for this business, multi-7 figures, it's very doable to branch off into another platform. Objective 2, launch 20 new ASINs that can each produce at least 10K a month in revenue. All right. So when you ask yourself, where am I going to come up with the other 2 million? It's going to be right there. All right. Objective number 3, adopt the entire Titanway operating system into our business. So if I'm being fully transparent, this was actually the annual objectives for my company back in 2019. All right. So we actually did this and this was the goal that we set for our business.
And that turned out pretty well for you, didn't it, Justin?
It did. Yeah. We actually hit all of our targets. So when you document
and
this
ended up exiting for a hefty amount.
Yeah,
so for everyone that doesn't know Justin's story, he ended up exiting that business for a life-changing sum. So matters.
Thanks, Chris.
It works.
All right. So those are a few examples. Now, this is the number one issue that people are going to have. If I asked you to set your annual revenue target for the next year, what is it going to be? If you did $1 million last year, can you do 2 million or can you do 10? Which is it? Right? How do you know? Why did you not say 5 million? Or why didn't you say you're just going to do $1 million a year again? Right? How are you guys coming up with this number? Right? We don't need to guess here. We need to use data and we need to be realistic so that our team can actually believe that it's possible. Okay. This is key. So what Chris was talking about earlier on your annual meeting, where your team is there helping you figure out where you're going to go for the upcoming year, they have to believe that it's doable. If you did $1 million last year and then you tell them, hey, we need to 10x this year and go to 10 million, one, no one actually believes you because you don't have a game plan for actually doing that. And 2, it's overwhelming. All right. So whatever you set your revenue growth objective to be, your entire company is going to see this and be working towards it. You must not overwhelm them. Okay. Overwhelming somebody looks like telling them they need to 10x their output. So whenever you're creating your 3-year vision for yourself, you can do that. You can shoot for the moon all you want to. Your job as an entrepreneur who's building a team is to take care of your team. Constantly creating overwhelm for your team by setting unrealistic goals is not taking care of your team. So I want to be very clear on this part of it. Okay. So the key to doing this correctly, the key to using data to pick your revenue target is to actually add a dollar value to the number of products that you can actually launch. All right. How to set your, just reading the slides verbatim here. So let's talk about how to do this. All right. So this is going to be a written example and I have a calculator for you and we're going to walk through this live here in a second. So keeping with our same example, let's say we did $1 million in revenue last year. All right. We launched 5 products and they had an average of 15K per month in revenue. So if we do the math on that, 5 products times $15,000 a month in revenue is $75,000 per month or about $900,000 per year. Right. Now, again, you're meeting with your team. You're asking like, hey, can we do this again? Is it possible? And you decide, you know what, it was hard, but now our team has decided that we can confidently repeat this and we can actually move faster, right? We made some mistakes, but we know how to solve those problems now. We set up a good system and process. And so realistically, we think we can actually launch 7 products this year at that same amount. Once you guys get good at launching products, you're going to find out that if you can stick to a certain revenue range, like in my business, anything between 10 and 20K a month in revenue, we could pluck those products off of Amazon and launch them within a month to 2 months, right? It becomes very easy if you can stick to a revenue range, right? So in this particular case, we believe that we can launch 7 products this upcoming year. We did 5 last year. That went okay. We can do 7 this year. All right. So $15,000 a month times these 7 new products is $105,000 per month, or $1.26 million per year in additional revenue. All right. So $1 million last year plus the $1.2 million in new products we're going to come out with this year equals basically a $2.2 million revenue objective for the upcoming year. All right. Now, this is a starting point. This is a baseline. This is using data to help you make this decision. But every single one of you should be having this thought right now. You can't launch all 7 products in January to get that $1.2 million in additional revenue. And you're absolutely right. But like I said, this is a baseline. It's a starting point. We didn't factor in quite a bit. All right. So we know that Amazon is growing at least 20% year over year for the past 5+ years. I think it's closer to 10+ years at this point. But we know that Amazon's growing. If we pick a target of 1.26 million in additional revenue growth simply based upon the potential products we launch, then we need to also make sure that we don't overcompensate here. And the reason we're not overcompensating by doing that, even though we can't launch those products all in January, is because we didn't factor in any growth for our existing company, right? I asked you guys earlier, do you think you could double in revenue with just your existing products? And many of you said no, but you should at least go by 20, 30, 40%. That's very doable and very common amongst most Amazon sellers. All right. So no, we didn't factor in any of that growth when we were picking that number. Right. So again, I want you to keep it simple. You need to make it realistic. And in order to do that, you need to put numbers behind it. That is so that your team can believe that it is possible. All right. So if you want to make this even more realistic, and what I would highly recommend is you factor in an 80% success rate for any new products you come out with. All right. It's pretty typical. I mean, I don't know anyone who can launch products successfully 100% of the time. We never did. So 80% is a pretty good rule of thumb. If you know what your actual success rate is, then use that instead. All right. So last thing on this bit, keep it smart. It is incredibly important for you to know exactly what your goal is supposed to be. That is what it means to be specific. It also has to be measurable. And measurable simply means that as you're progressing, you can tell, right? You can tell the progress is being made, so it is measurable. Attainable, again, that goes back to being realistic, all right? It has to be attainable. Your team has to believe that it is attainable. Relevant, it has to actually make sense for your company. So that is really what ties back into that company vision, right? Your annual objectives should tie back into your company's vision. And then time-based. This is a given. These are annual objectives. Everything's automatically time-based, right? So remember, whenever you're setting a goal, if it's not all of these things, you need to reword it or rework it so that it actually is. All right. Now let's actually do this. Let's put this into practice. And I want to show you the spreadsheet that y'all are going to be using to get this done. All right.
So while Justin loads that up, guys, I'd love to get off the top of your head, drop down in the chat box, what is an annual objective that comes to mind? I just want to see if people are kind of really grooved in here, Justin, and following along with what we're laying down. Drop in the chat box, guys. Give me an annual objective that kind of comes to mind as like your immediate thought. And I know it's not going to be accurate because you need to do the work. So Matt's saying double revenue from last year. 3 new products from Bob in 2023. Mark says 5 million exit through Titan Tools. Good job. Mohammed, expand products. Miko launched new brand. Anna, 1 million revenue. Vanessa, double revenue gets group 3. Eric says launch a minimum of 3 new products in 2023. Add more SKUs. So yeah, getting a lot of kind of revenue based and new product based for sure.
Right on. Love it. All right. So I want to talk about how we're going to document these. I want to talk about the math that's behind it. I'm going to give you this spreadsheet that you're looking at here to do that. So when you get it, it'll look just like this. All right. I have a complete example for you here. I don't want you to get lost in this. We have not covered how to come up with any of this yet. All right. The only thing that I want you to have accomplished as part of your action items is going to be your annual objectives. Okay. Now, again, in order to find these, we need to do some math and figure out exactly what those are supposed to be. So you'll see a blank tab in here and it's called January. And the reason it's called January is because it's for January of 2023. It's December 4th today. This is a great time for you to actually create annual objectives for the next year. And so this is going to be part of the action items that you set up. Now, before I go any further, I do want to quickly walk through this spreadsheet so you know what in the world you're looking at. All right. This spreadsheet's very simple, but it is very powerful for explaining and showing your team what your company's focus is for the particular year, quarter, month, and week.
And with that
right?
point, Justin, we keep mentioning your team, but if it's just you and your partner or just yourself and a VA right now, the whole point here is to reflect on this and put this down on paper to reflect back to yourself what you're working towards. And as we get later into the challenge this week, then we'll start going through org chart, who you need to hire, when to hire them, at what size of business. But you'll hear us talking about teams. We're talking to the larger sellers here. But if it is just you, or maybe you and your partner in the business, then either do it with your partner or ask a friend who you know is in business and gets this stuff to sit and do that with you, just to be a voice, like a sounding board for you to go through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, I would, even if it is just you, I would still do this. There's no reason why
100%.
you shouldn't, right? This is going to give you so much clarity. All right. So I want to show you kind of what's in here, what's supposed to be here. And that way it's very clear. So I'm going to move over into this completed month. Again, you're not going to be able to do this all today, and that's not the expectation, but I want to show you what it looks like once it's completed. At the top here, we have our company vision. And as you can see, it's written here. Everyone in your company can see it. This is the guideline for making decisions in your business, right? So that's up here at the top. The next thing we do when we're having our meetings with our team, we have that annual planning meeting. And during that meeting, we set our annual objectives. So that you can see annual objective, there's only one option here. That's the only thing you can put here. And you have those listed out, right? You have an owner. It's incredibly important that somebody owns the objective. If no one owns it, no one's going to manage it. So somebody has to own it. If it's just you and your business, you own everything, and that's perfectly fine. All right. There's a completion column, pretty straightforward. Once it's done, mark it off. There's a due date. There's a due date. All right. For annual objectives, the due date's the end of the year. So 12/31, I should say 2023, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this one was for October. So yeah, this one, end of the year date is 12/31/22. That's pretty straightforward. And then just a few updates and notes and briefs. When you're on your meeting, you may have these, and that's why they're documented here. This is just an example. All right. So the first thing at the top is annual objectives and company vision. And there's little toggles here. You can hide things if you want. That way you can remove it. It's not so noisy. Once you break those annual objectives down, you would create your quarterly initiatives. Those get documented here. Same song and dance. You got the actual initiative, you got the owner, completion, due dates, and then you've got a planning brief link. Again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And this is the key, okay? Every one of these quarterly initiatives should align with one of these annual objectives. If your quarterly initiatives do not align with your annual objectives, you need to seriously ask yourself if you should be doing it. So there's a column here that tells or that allows you to pick from a drop-down menu, and this will automatically be calculated for or be done for you. So when you put in your annual objectives, these will automatically populate. It will allow you to pick which annual objective your quarterly initiative aligns with. All right. And then bringing it down further, you have the same thing down here. So monthly goals, the weekly commitments associated with those goals, and how those link to the quarterly initiatives. All right. So the spreadsheet is fairly simple. Again, I don't expect you to fully understand how to do monthly or quarterly yet, but I want you to understand at least how it's set up. All right. So at the end of every month, your spreadsheet will look like this. All right. So in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at. For today, we're setting annual objectives, and we have a calculator for you to help you figure out what that is. So I want to explain how we're going to go about setting our revenue objective, how we're going to set our number of products launch objective, and how we're going to come up with our contribution margin objective. Now, I don't want you guys to get lost in the math here. That's why most of this is automatically calculated for you, right? Everything that's grayed out is calculated for you. There's no action you need to take on it. It's okay to not fully understand it. Guys, it took me 5 years to get this stuff. I don't expect you to do it on a 20 minutes during a webinar. All right. But what I want you guys to do before we can decide what our revenue objective is going to be for the year, we need to actually figure out what we did in the past. So like I said earlier, we need to figure out how many products did we launch last year. Okay. So for this particular example, we're going to run through these 3 sections. All right. We're going to figure out how many products we launched last year, how many we're going to launch this year. We're going to figure out what our revenue was last year, what our revenue potential is going to be this year. And then we're going to do the same thing with contribution margin. So part of your action items after the call today is to go through this yourself with your actual numbers. Okay. So in order to do this, again, most of this is calculated for you, but there are some things that don't have a colored cell that you need to actually write in. So the first thing is number of products launched. All right. How many products did you launch last year? All right. If it was 5, put 5. And then success rate, super important. You might have launched 5, but if only 2 of those were successful, then your success rate's 40%, right? I think that math was right, 40% or so. All right. So put the success rate. If you launch 10 and 2 of those were failures, then your success rate's 80%, right? Put that in. And then look at the actual revenue for each of those successful products. Like, what'd you actually get, right? This is going to kind of help you set a standard for what kinds of products that you can comfortably launch with predictability. Okay. So put in the number of products you launched, the success rate, and then the revenue per successful product, right? Just take the average here. We don't need to know what it is in the sum and total. Just take the average of all of those. All right. Now, this is where you need to actually put your thinking cap on. How many products can you launch in the next year? Okay. If you launched 5 last year, can you launch 5 again this year? Yeah, that would, seem to make a lot of sense. I think 5 this year would be very realistic if you've already done it in the past. But we're trying to grow faster and faster every year, right? And if that's the case, can you launch more? What is your team's capability? Who's on your team? Who's developing products and actually has products ready to go for you to launch? Who on your team is launching products, right? And if it's just you, then this number should be relatively low. If it's just you, you have 1, maybe 2 products, this number is probably going to be a 1, and that's perfectly okay. All right. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that you need to try to double the number of products you launch every year. I'm telling you that you need to be realistic based on your current capability, your current finances, right? These are all the things that you go through and discuss on your annual meeting. All right. So for this example, we're just going to assume 10. Okay. I built my team. It's been growing, and I think I can double the number of products that I can launch. All right. I've got their sign off. They agree. The success rate for the new year, I would leave it exactly the way it was last year. Right? You don't have really any proof to say that you can do better in terms of your success rate here, and that's okay. I would leave it the way it was. If it was 60%, make it 60%. All right. And that'll automatically change the numbers down below. All right. So the actual monthly increase in revenue for these new products ends up being about 60K. All right. So 10 new products, 60% success rate, 10,000 per month average, $60,000 in additional revenue per month. All right. You're done here. What I want you to take note of is this number here. So the number of new products to launch this year, this very well may become an annual objective. I would highly recommend that it does. All right. From there, you can actually figure out what your revenue objective is going to be. Again, this is a starting point and this is a target. It does not have to be exactly this number. You can lower it. You can increase it depending on what you have going on. All right. And I'll quickly explain some of that. So what was last year's revenue? If we're going to set a target for the next year, we need to know what we did last year. Let's say it was $1 million in this example. Okay. So New Year's potential results. What are we going to do for the upcoming year? So the annual revenue increase of new products comes from this number here. So monthly revenue increase of new products was 60K a month, $60,000 per month times 12 months is $720,000. This is automatically calculated. You don't have to do anything. All right. Technically speaking, you wouldn't have to do anything else. You could just take this number as it is and run with it if you wanted to. All right. But let's say you're, a bigger seller, and let's say you do have the capacity to expand into Europe, expand into Walmart.com, expand into whatever. Maybe you have the ability to create, 10%, 20% of your revenue on Shopify, whatever it is you may be able to do. If that is the case for your business, then you can also increase this revenue target by putting a dollar amount for each of those items there. For those of you that are, not at that level, then you're going to completely ignore these. All right. So I want you to completely ignore these if you are not a 7-figure seller, essentially. All right. So once you put in your last year's revenue, the revenue increase from new products is going to automatically calculate, and it's going to spit out this number. I would round it down to the nearest 100K, right? If it's over $1 million. So 1.7 million, that's going to be your target for the year. All right. And you would take that and you would document it right here. So if you know that based upon the math that we just figured out, we're going to say, all right, reach $1.7 million in annual net revenue. All right. That's going to be your first revenue objective for the upcoming year. All right. And we're going to document that there. Now, the next part, this is where I really don't want you guys to get lost. I just want you to input the values that you're allowed to put in and then let it calculate. And I'll explain why it calculates the way it does, but I want you to keep things super simple here. This is not supposed to be an accounting lesson. All right. So what I want you to do is put in last year's cost of goods sold. Hopefully you have a profit and loss statement where all you have to do is go look at it and get this number. Okay, you can find out what it is. There's a line item for it on your P&L. All right, if you don't have that, then this number is basically going to be your unit cost, your freight cost, your duty cost, and all of the associated Amazon fees. Okay, that's what cost of goods sold is in an Amazon business. All right, you're going to take that number and you're going to input it here. So in this example, it's 680,000. All right, that COGS number as a percentage of revenue is 68% in this example. Okay, last year's gross profit is 320,000. Gross profit is simply revenue minus COGS. So if revenue was $1 million, which we have it up here as $1 million, minus 680,000 is 320,000. All right, that makes your gross profit margin 32%. Again, this stuff is calculated for you. You don't need to find this stuff out. It will tell it to you. All right, now the other thing that you have to input here is your paid media expenses. Paid media is PPC. All right, it's your advertising cost. How much did you spend on Amazon last year? All right, in this example, we're going to say it was $168,000 and $168,700. Okay, this is going to automatically calculate what your tacos was. All right, so if you spent this amount of money and you had this amount of revenue, your tacos was 16.87%. Right, it's probably a bit high, or definitely is high because your profit margin is only 32%. Okay, and this is going to give you your contribution margin for the previous year. You don't need to calculate it. It will calculate it for you. All right. What I want you to notice here is that the contribution margin in this case is 15%. I told you earlier, the target should be closer to 25%. All right. So this means, generally speaking, your business doesn't have a lot of profit left over because contribution margin still doesn't factor in payroll, software, office supplies, office expenses, etc. Right. So once this is done, once you've got your cost of goods sold entered in, once you have your paid media expenses entered in, it's going to tell you what your contribution margin was last year. This is really just for informational purposes for you to know, because the vast majority of you will not have any idea what this number was. All right. Now, when we're going to set the target for the contribution margin for the following year or for this upcoming year, we're going to have only one field that we need to input. So what you saw from last year was that your cost of goods as a percentage of revenue was 68%. Okay, the only way to make this number go down is to get better unit pricing, pay less for shipping, pay less storage from Amazon, or pay less pick and pack fees from Amazon. If you do not believe that you can reduce that, then I want you to take this number and I want you to copy it into the cell. I don't want you to think any more about it. If you can't pull the levers to reduce your unit cost, reduce your shipping costs, then we're just going to leave it at 68%. I would actually recommend that the vast majority of you just leave it at 68% anyways, or leave it at whatever your actual cost of goods percentage is. Okay, it will calculate everything else for you. Now, one thing I need to clarify, just so that everyone's on the same page, our tacos target is going to be 1/3 of our profit margin, our gross profit margin. Okay, so if your gross profit margin is 32%, 33 1/3% of that is 10.67%. Okay, so all of your ad spend divided by all of your total sales on Amazon should be this number. That's going to be your target. Okay, if you did that, if you hit that number, your new contribution margin target for the year is 21.3%. All right, it's basically factoring in your revenue target for the year, keeping your cost of goods sold the same exact amount or same exact percentage. And if you do that while also lowering your ad spend, your contribution margin is going to be 21%. All right. Again, I don't want you to get lost in the math on this. We simply need a starting point. I don't care what your contribution margin is today. I don't care if it's 35%. Your goal is still going to be to try to increase it. The reason we set this as an annual objective for the year is so that you don't get lost on just increasing revenue. So many sellers focus entirely or their entire business on increasing revenue. They look up, they've made $3 million and they lost 300K on the year. I don't want that to be for you. So in order to do that, we need to set an annual objective that represents profit. And that's what we're doing here. So once you look at this, once you put in your cost of goods sold, your paid media, and what your expectation is for cost of goods in the upcoming year, you're going to take this number and you're going to make that the target for contribution margin. So reach 21% contribution margin for 2023. All right. That's how we get our revenue target, and that's how we get our profitability target. All right. So there's math involved in this. It's fairly straightforward and easy for you to figure out if you have the data ready from your P&L or however else you can look it up. All right. So I don't want to kind of skim over this, but we do need to talk about the next three options here, right? Are we going to actually input any other objectives? Why or why not? So as I said earlier, if we don't launch products on a routine basis, that's not a system we created in our business, which is what that means, by the way. If you don't have a routine for launching products, whether it's once a quarter, once every 6 months, or every other month, whatever that is, if you don't have that set up, then you need to have a number of products to launch in 2023 goal. So we've already done the math for that as well. And if we go back to this calculator, we said it was 10, doing $10,000 per month in average revenue. So we're going to come over here and say, launch at least 10 new products with $10,000 per month in revenue. All right. So there's our third objective. So what I want to call out here, I want to make sure we're on the same page. Once we go through this calculator here, we can figure out how many number of products we realistically can launch for the upcoming year. We can figure out what our revenue objective is going to be based upon those number of products. And then based on the realization or reality of our current ad spending habits and cost of goods sold, we can figure out what our contribution margin target is going to be. We can input all of those in here and figure out what our first three objectives are going to be for the upcoming year. All right. This actually doesn't take very long to do as long as you have the data. So that being said, before we move on to what the other potential objectives could be, are there any other comments, Chris or Dan, on how this is done? Is everyone following along with this?
Yeah, I'm glad you've gone into the detail here, Justin, because it's all good and well to say, right, set your revenue target, set your profit target, but the gap, the mental gap between hearing that statement and then actually putting it down on paper is quite big. And what we've broken down here for you guys is a step-by-step process for how to get the clarity in setting those numbers. And it also forces you to take a sober look on where the business is at today. So is everyone, give Justin some feedback here in the chat box. Is this making sense? Is everyone following along? Type following for me in the chat box if you're understanding this. The goal is to use this year's data to set next year's objectives within a realistic frame while taking a sober look at how to measure and affect profitability. And that's ultimately the whole goal of running and scaling this business, is to put profit in our pockets at the end of the day, or build towards that enterprise value that then can be sold for a few $1 million. So yeah, we are following. I just need to work through the share. Yes, definitely. Great job. Justin, you rock. Clarity is amazing. Justin's awesome. Sweet. So yeah, I think people are following along, and we're going to jump to Q&A here in a second, and we'll cover off the major points. Guys, at the bottom of Zoom, you'll see a Q&A box. Go ahead and put any questions you've got in that Q&A box, and we'll answer the questions there formally. But Justin, yeah, everyone's following along.
Awesome. Very glad to hear that. I was worried that we'd get lost in the math. I'm glad that didn't happen. So I've only got one more thing to talk about, and then we can get on to the Q&A here. So like I said earlier, you're going to have 2 to 5 annual objectives. How do you know if you should have more than a revenue objective, a profit objective, and then a number of products to launch objective? How do you know? All right. So the general rule of thumb here is going to primarily be based upon what your team is capable of actually achieving. Okay. If you have a small team and this is probably going to be enough work for the year, right? Then that's perfectly okay. Leave it here. I would much rather you have fewer annual objectives than all 5. And the reason being, every one of these annual objectives is going to be broken down into multiple quarterly initiatives. Each quarterly initiative is broken down into multiple monthly goals, which is broken down into monthly, weekly commitments. So it looks like a big pyramid, right? Like if you remember that graphic we showed towards the earlier part of this presentation, one annual objective ends up having hundreds of daily tasks. Okay. So I don't want you to overextend yourself. The expectation for your team, when you have this all filled out, is to hit 80% of your targets every week, every month, every quarter, and every year. 80%. You shouldn't demand perfection from your team, but they should be doing more than 80%. If they're not doing 80%, that means either 1, your team's not effective, 2, you tried to do way too many things, and that becomes more, or you can know one way or the other as time goes on. If you've spent the 4 quarters of all of next year not hitting any of your targets, you did something wrong, right? And you'll be able to figure out what that is. So how do we know if we should do more? General rule of thumb is going to be based upon the number of team members you have and what they do within your company, right? If you have only VAs in your company that mostly do data entry or gathering data, then your ability to launch products is going to be stifled. Your ability to develop products is stifled. The ability to actually optimize revenue and profit on existing products is stifled. So what I would tell you is if you are below 7 figures in revenue, do not have any more than the 3 that you saw here. So I keep jumping back around. Do not have any more than a revenue objective, profit objective, and number of products to launch. For those of you larger companies that do have more support on your team and more cash realistically to go around for new initiatives, I want to give you guys some examples, right? So you saw this one kind of earlier. We're going to expand the entire product catalog to Walmart.com and generate 10% of our revenue on that platform. Okay, this would be an example of a good annual objective. Now you might think, well, it doesn't take that long to get to Walmart.com, but again, depending on your time or the size of your product portfolio, it could very well take a year. It took us a year to get there because we didn't have enough inventory to ship everything at once, and we needed to reshape our entire supply chain to accommodate multiple warehouses. So this can be a yearly objective. Excuse me. Whew. All right, so I did see a question in the chat about can be building a team member or hiring a team member be part of your annual objectives. I would go a little bit broader in that regard, and I would do something along the lines of build a team that effectively manages all 5 core pillars in our business. All right, because remember, those are that's bare minimum that you can do to still see massive growth year over year. All right, so that would be a great annual objective. Generate $1 million in annual revenue on Shopify through external marketing and social media. Right, again, this is only for multi-7-figure companies where this makes sense. The exception would be anybody selling in supplements or any type of monthly recurring revenue product portfolio. All right, another one, create a team and system so we never run out of stock or ship by air, and maintain enough inventory to run large scale promotions during peak season, Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If you have a seasonal business, this is probably a very big deal for you. All right, if you are constantly having to ship things by air, you're just ruining your contribution margin, ruining your net profit, and you're running out of stock, shipping by air, and you never have enough money or enough inventory left over to actually run a lightning deal, actually run a Prime exclusive discount during these big sales holidays. That might be a fantastic annual objective for you because it's not going to be a one-time fix. You have to create an entire system for this and build a team to actually management, right? Supply chain logistics is hard. So there's a very good reason for this to be an annual objective. And I believe it's the last one here. Expand all product lines into Europe or the European marketplace with a proper supply chain system, content team, and staff to manage each marketplace, right? Not every marketplace in Europe speaks English as a first language. You're gonna have to build a team out to do that if you're not multilingual, right? So this would be a great annual objective as well. Again, mostly for the larger companies out there. Oh, and finally, adopt and properly implement the entire Titan Way operating system. Now you might be thinking, why does it really take a whole year to do this? And it takes a whole year to do it right. And when I first set this up in my company, it took me about a year to actually understand how to set up the quarterly initiatives, how to set up the monthly goals, how to communicate with my team and the daily meetings and the weekly meetings. And it's the iteration that you need to actually go through. And if you keep this at the forefront, what you're doing is telling your team that you support them and you're willing to put in the time, energy, and effort to support them and give them clarity for how they should be showing up in your business and how you're going to show up for them in your business. So this would be a fantastic annual objective. So again, like I said, I would really stick to a revenue, contribution margin, and launch objective for the brands that are smaller. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to focus on for right now. So before we get into action items, Dan, Chris, is there anything else y'all want to discuss? Or we want to save these for after Q&A?
No, I think no. Let's do the action items now, because what I want to do is I want to recap very concisely. We've just covered a lot of ground there. We touched on a number of different points, from the vision to the annual meeting agenda, how to then set an annual objective. Before doing that, taking a reality check of where your capability sits today using the 5 core pillars. So let's quickly recap that, Justin, and really kind of articulate what these action items are. And then for everyone watching, the replay will be instantly available in the Facebook group, and we'll go in and we'll post all of these resources. So the 5 core pillar exercise, the annual objective worksheet you saw there, plus a couple of other downloads we're going to include in the description of that post. So don't worry. So yeah, let's go ahead and get these action items kind of summarized.
Right on. All right. So there's only 2. Obviously, we've gone through both of those on this training today. So hopefully you understand how to do them. If not, there is cheat sheets and SOPs for how to do both of these. So the first thing I want you to do is run the entire 5 core pillar exercise. All right. So what I mean by that is filling out your process. it is such good practice for you to fill this out and understand what it is you actually do in each of these pillars. This will highlight for you whether or not you even have a process or if you're just kind of winging it. Okay. So that's the first one. Run the 5 core pillar exercise, document, the current process in each pillar, and then grade your business on the results. Most of you already should have the results done. We were doing that live, but as you start documenting your process, you might actually find, we are actually a lower number or a higher number. And that's okay. That's what I want you to realize. All right. Post the results of your 5 core pillar review into the Facebook group. All right. This is like the action item where hey, you're going to interact in the Facebook group. And if you do this, this will qualify you to win some of the many prizes that we have for you.
It also gives us an opportunity to give you feedback as well. So go ahead and take a screenshot of the 5 core pillar, maybe highlight the colored boxes just so we can see that. And it'll also give leaders, mentors, and everyone in the group and fellow Titan peers the ability to feedback as well.
Yeah, I like that better. Definitely take a screenshot. That's so much better than just putting, pillar 1 or whatever. So the next thing is you need to actually document your annual objectives, all right, on the company plan spreadsheet. So I'm giving you this spreadsheet. It will be blank when you get it. Boop, now it's blank. So you're going to get this one here. You have the calculator in here. You're going to need to make a copy of everything, right? So come to file, make a copy. And what I want you to do is go through this objective calculator and then figure out what your annual objectives are going to be for the upcoming year. I do realize that you need to actually have this meeting with your team, and that is certainly going to be the expectation for you during the month of December. But for the purpose of this workshop, you can get pretty darn close to what your annual objectives are going to be for the upcoming year by yourself. And again, if you have the opportunity to speak with everyone on your team about this, your C-suite or your partners, then by all means, go ahead and do that. But I want you to fill out this section and have it ready to go for tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to be breaking these down into quarterly initiatives. And we're not going to be able to do that if you don't actually document the annual objectives. Okay. So you document those. And then I want you to post what your 3 to 5 objectives or 2 to 5 objectives are into the Facebook group. Let us see what you're doing. What is your goals, right? And this is super important because it'll allow me and Chris and Dan and everyone, all the other leaders, to give you feedback on what your objectives are, right? The one thing that I haven't really explained here, but it is difficult to predict what you want to accomplish in a year. Right? We said these things should take 9 to 12 months, but it's okay if you're not really sure how long it takes to do something. But if you put in there, launch 300 new products or something, and we're like, all right, or how'd you come up with that? Right? So let us give you feedback, post your objectives for the year, and we can actually give you feedback in the Facebook group. So,
and then in addition to that, guys, make sure you do post that, because it takes, what I found in this process is it takes multiple rounds of refinement to really get to smart objectives. The first time you do it, often one of the smart components is missing. It's not specific enough. It's not measurable enough. It's not attainable enough. And posting in the group will allow us and your fellow peers here in the challenge to give you feedback on whether it's defined well enough. In addition to that, for extra bonus points, what I want you to do is go ahead and post on social media, on Facebook, as a post on your own profile, what your main takeaway has been from today, and then go ahead and tag me or Athena or Titan, so I can go ahead and read through those. And as I see kind of your main takeaways, it will really help craft the week, and it also kind of puts it out there, your intention for this week. So if you post on social media and tag me, that'll also go towards the prize process this week. But the main action items on there: run the 5 core pillar exercise in its entirety, and then document your annual objectives and company plan spreadsheet, posting both of them in the Facebook group so we can feedback. So before we move to Q&A, Justin and Chris, fantastic job on getting through this. Today was definitely the densest of the 5 days, because we need to get you set up right with the right target. Because if you don't know where you're heading, or if you don't know what you're aiming for, how do you know what to ask your team for? Is really kind of the core concept here. So it's really clear that you're clear as the leader of your business and the founder of your business, the CEO of your business, to be able to lead your team effectively in that direction. Chris, any closing comments before we move on to Q&A here?
Yeah, one of the recurring things that I keep seeing in the comments and even in the Q&A is some of the people out there who have no team, and they're just one person, and they're trying to figure out, how do I implement this? How do I run an annual meeting with a single person? And it seems like there's quite a few people that have that. Well, you can still follow all of these exercises and objective setting and initiative setting with just one person. But keep in mind that you can't put a system to something that you don't have working yet. So there is part, if you are listening to this and you're trying to build systems in your company, you can do that as a single person. But you should also remember that you can't put a system to something unless you've figured out how to succeed with it yet. So focus first on the success of these individual elements and the 5 core domains of success in the business. And then once you've figured out what the path to success is, then you can apply a system to repeatably create that success without you.
For sure, 100%. So with that, guys, I can see a bunch of questions coming up. I really want to clear up these financial ones. So when Justin talks about last year, he means 2022 for 2023. So yes, we're in the first week of December. Go ahead, if you're going to go, as you get this done in the next 24 hours, just forecast out where you think you'll land for December. If you've got last year's data, you can use that. If you know what your current run rate looks like, you can run it out the rest of the year. You can always refine these when you actually close out December. So just forecast and estimate where you think you'll land for December, and then you've got your whole annual view to be able to inform the 2023 activity. In addition, if you don't have proper bookkeeping and accounting in place, which trust me, 95% of this industry doesn't, it scares me how many sellers don't have accurate books in place and accurate management accounts, then you can look at this from a contribution margin level, look using any kind of profit reporting like Sellerboard or any of these kind of platforms that allow you to get to that kind of level on the P&L to roughly assess the year and set your targets for next year. But one of your immediate actions should be working with a company like Avask to get accurate accounting in place and get into a process where you've got a set of monthly management accounts being produced that are accurate within a week or so of the month closing. Because if you don't have accurate numbers in front of you, how are you making accurate decisions in the business? You're not. You're just sort of floating through it. So yeah, if you don't have that in your business right now, then use a gross profit number or contribution margin number from a platform like Sellerboard or one of these ones that report that, and use that for now. Or if you have QuickBooks or you have Xero set up and you're kind of doing it, then take those numbers. But you would quickly want to move to accuracy. Avask is great. Go to Avask, check Avask out. We trust Avask with that process, and they'll help you get there. Okay, so what I want to do here is hey Athena, I want to jump into the Q&A and start rattling through some of these questions here. And then I want to close out in about 10 minutes or so to let everyone get going and get these action items complete. So Mika saying, the problem I have with the whole goal setting and team building is not able to actually make it happen. The day-to-day operation keeps sucking me back in, which I'm not able to progress on what I need to, not having enough profit to hire as fast as I can. I'm not sure how to close the gap of my reality versus my goal. I'll give my answer on that. And then Justin, I think I'd like to hear yours as well. So Miko, for me, the first step to changing what I would consider that kind of insanity loop. So you're going through the same cycle where you keep getting caught in the operations, not being able to remove yourself to then put this in place, is to take the time, make the time to, one, get clarity. And the clarity is today's workshop. So today's session on understanding where you are today, the capabilities, the strengths, the weaknesses, and where you want to be by the end of next year. That's step one. Later in the week, we're then going to take you through the process of how you identify the immediate areas to remove yourself from those reactive pieces in the business with one simple hire, such as a VA. And if you're on this call and your business is generating more than $5,000 or $10,000 a month in profit, then you're in a position where you can easily go and hire a VA, or even on part-time on a few $100s a week, to start removing you and creating time in the business to implement this stuff. Justin, I came at this from a much more scaled position. I already had a business and a team in place that I transitioned into Amazon. For you starting up on this as a kind of solopreneur, how did you tackle that process?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's hard because you really have to change your mindset from, okay, I don't want this to get messed up. I don't know how to give it to somebody else, and I can't really afford to give it to somebody else either. But like Dan said, you start with a VA. So I would recommend none of you ever write your own SOPs. I recommend when you hire somebody like a VA to come and take these repetitive tasks, right? So for Miko, anything that you're doing that's repetitive, that can be given to someone. If it's repetitive, someone else can do it. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but basically what I want you to do for all of the repetitive things that you're doing, I want you to record yourself doing it. And I want you to hire a VA for $6 an hour, whatever it is, and give them that video. Their job when they come on board is to create an SOP from the video you made, and that will let you know whether or not they understood the process. So that's how I would start.
And I think on that point, what we'll do is anything that's not relevant to today, we'll push it to later in the week because we're going to cover all this stuff. So I want to keep the conversation really focused. But Miko, the answer you'll hear later in the week is you invest into this stuff. The compound effect of freeing you up will get the business to where it needs to be. And you have to take that leap of faith in your business to compound scale and grow.
And I'm going to give them a little gold. You ready for the one to hire your first hire? Your freaking housekeeper. Okay. So get a housekeeper, go do Instacart, order Uber Eats. Like there's some hacks that you can do that will cost you even less than a VA weekly, that will free up maybe 10 hours, 5 hours a week. You wouldn't believe how much time you might spend even just shopping for groceries. So if you can do that hack, you can start getting a bit more momentum. And I think that's your first hire.
Yeah. So let's leave hiring to the later in the week. So Matt, we talked about accounting systems. Eric saying, love the calculator. Where do we factor in finance in your growth and cash flow needs, etc.? So Eric, that's obviously definitely a more advanced finance question. The goal here is really understanding where your business is today from a contribution perspective in terms of the existing product catalog and how many products do you need to add to that catalog to hit your target. As you get down into more detailed cash flow management and P&L analysis, of course, you're then going to work to build in the finance and cost of finance to do so. Justin, Chris, is there anything you want to kind of include on that?
I mean, I think the question isn't referring to like, how do you pick your target if you can factor in financing? I think that's what, Eric, you're trying to say. And if that's the case, I mean, when you're going through that annual meeting process, essentially, you have to put the gut check against your capability, right? If you do have the capability to get financing and further accelerate that growth, you can hire people faster, you can launch products faster, then you can certainly factor that in and just adjust that number, right? Increase it up based upon however you plan on using that capital. But the numbers in the calculator are a baseline. If you have other capabilities, then by all means factor those in with that number.
Yeah, the main thing is that your growth rate is going to be inversely related to the amount to your margin. You have lower margin if you're trying to grow faster because you have to spend more of it on buying new products, launching them, marketing them, et cetera. So the key thing is just to forecast the costs and forecast the revenues.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Kevin saying, I'm a new seller, so I don't have any of this data. Where do I start? So Kevin, best thing to do is to use like-for-like competitor data. Look at those sellers that are just ahead of you on where you are and are maybe sitting where you're looking to get by the end of next year, and then use their data to model your future. Make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, like-for-like products, competitors in the same category that have the products that delivers the same outcome. Make sure that they're a similar level in their growth and their stage of business based on reviews and revenue, and all of this is available in Titan Tools. And then use their data to forecast yours. Anonymous attendee. Can you provide us with your 5-day sheet template with your baby products examples? Yeah, so we're going to be giving the downloads here at the end of the session. We'll have a working example in there.
And if someone's calling themselves anonymous and asking for all our sheets, that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, we're giving the downloads available at the end. How does an exit align with company mission statement? How did you build that into your exit, Justin? And maybe Matt as well. Matt and Kat here had an 8-figure exit in the last 18 months. So
I didn't. There was a couple questions around this, like how do you add exiting as an annual objective? I think it really starts with how open you are with your team. If it's okay for you to say that with your team and you've been talking about it, then by all means you can add that in there. But generally speaking, I wouldn't make it an annual objective simply because once you sell it, that means your company no longer has an objective. So you should be, planning. And even when you sell your company, you have to give whoever buys your company something that's going to continue to be successful, or it's going to drag down your multiple and make your ability to sell a company more difficult. So personally, I didn't do that. I told one person on my team, and he had to know because he had to sign some documents in order for me to sell it. There's a warning for that later on in the week when it comes to giving people titles. But I would not personally do that, only because your company should be focused on growing, and exiting is a goal for you personally, not for your company. Your company
and for our Titan members, make sure you join the Titan X work party with Scott. There's a brand new Titan X workbook where each week you join the Titan X work party for 1 hour a week. You work on that plan, and it's a full system for working your business towards the valuation you want to achieve the exit that you want to achieve. So even if your exit's a couple of years away, start joining the Titan X work party, get access to the Titan X workbook, start filling that in and updating it on a weekly basis. And you kind of do this process, but separately with you and your co-owners of the company, or just yourself, or anyone that's kind of in at that kind of executive level. And that's a completely separate track that kind of runs in parallel. So this is very much for the team whilst you're corporately working on the business towards its exit. And the whole goal here is to get the team in place to be able to scale and achieve the goals, allowing you to free up your time to work on things like your valuation to achieve your exit. So yeah, to check out the Titan X work party. It's every Thursday inside of Titan. Cool. Next one. Mark says, how do you calculate objectives from the other 4 core pillars, not only for new product launches? Good question.
Yeah, so that's where I was hoping we wouldn't get confusion on this. But so the 5 core pillars, right? Your business should be doing them anyways, whether it's doing it well or poorly, it doesn't really matter. Your business should be doing them. But we're not going to set an annual objective for every single core pillar, simply because it's going to break out to be too many things. A lot of these things should be handled in your revenue objective and your profit objective. So for example, when I say it's handled, right? So if you have, your annual objective of hitting $1 million, well, what are the action steps you need to do that? Well, it's developing products, launching products, optimizing and improving the revenue of existing products, which is SKU optimization. And then in order to increase profit, you have to manage your PPC effectively, which is the 4th pillar. So all of these things get handled either in the revenue objective or the profit objective. The reason I'm having you guys set a target for number of products launched, it's because it's the one thing that I consistently see after working with thousands of sellers at this point, that they just fail to make time for. And it's the number one way you can keep doubling your business year over year, right? We were doubling our business in the millions of dollars per year simply from launching products. We didn't do anything else. We got rid of Walmart, we got rid of Shopify, got rid of Etsy. We just focused only on the 5 core pillars, and revenue doubled. And I wasn't doing any of it. My team was doing it. My team of 3 full-time employees and 3 part-time contractors was doing all of it. So that's why it's like, you don't need to do all pillars as an annual objective. They get handled along the way. And you're going to learn more about that tomorrow with the quarterly initiatives and monthly goals. So it's a great question though. But I would say don't worry about it just yet. We'll address it more tomorrow when we break down each of the other ones.
Okay, and our next question is, how do you define the number of products launched when you sell products that have multiple variations? Do you count variations launched, or just when you launch the parent SKUs?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had the same setup. So we had, 20, 30 parents, and then we had 80, 90 individual SKUs. I would consider a launch an actual launch. If you just get a variation and you attach it to something and then don't do anything with it, I wouldn't consider that a launch, because the actual gain in revenue is going to be marginal. When you launch a new product line or a new parent, you should see much bigger growth than if you're just launching variations. So I would stick primarily to, full honesty, I had 2 targets in my business. We had one for new product lines, we had one for variations. We factored in both. For simplicity here, we just included just one. But if you do have a heavy variation type setup, then create a target for variations, and that's going to be much lower than your target is for a new product line. Product lines typically have a much bigger boost in revenue and profit, or revenue rather, than variations do.
Awesome. Then we'll take the last question here. So Ian asking about job roles. We're going to cover full job roles later this week. Nikita, Amazon may be growing 20% on the year, but so is the competition. Is it correct to assume revenue growth of your existing ASINs is guaranteed, as it's done in the Excel sheet displayed? I think, Justin, this is a really good point to touch on SKU optimization, but let's just talk about kind of the simplicity of what we're trying to achieve here in setting a target.
Yeah. So I guess without going into SKU optimization, that's where I was going to go. Let me reset my thoughts here. So what I would say, yes, we're just assuming that. Obviously, things do get more difficult. And also products do have a life cycle, right? When you start having 20, 30, 40, 50 products, you're gonna have products dying. And that's why it's important to keep launching new ones. So as your old ones die, the new ones can take its place. So I would argue you shouldn't be seeing a loss or no growth for your entire catalog, unless you have 1 or 2 products or something. I don't know how many you have, but if you have a pretty decent sized portfolio, 10, 20 plus products, you shouldn't be seeing flat revenue across every single one of your products. That shouldn't be happening. And that would be the need to focus on SKU optimization and figuring out what's wrong with your current products.
For sure. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. What I want you to do is any of the questions you've got, drop them as posts inside the Facebook group. The Titan leaders you see here, plus our wider Titan leadership mentors, are all dedicated this week to supporting you inside of this challenge Facebook group. So be sure to go ahead and post them in there. We're going to recap the action items here on the post in a second. But today, what you need to go ahead and do is, let's bring those up here. Let's have them open. Is run the full 5 core pillar exercise. You're going to document your current process in each pillar and grade your business on its results. So it's not just the score. You're going to go through and do the actual process for each of the 5 that you currently have in place and identify areas for improvement. You're then going to document your annual objectives on the company plan spreadsheet, and you're going to post both of them, both the results of your 5 core pillar exercise and your 3 to 5 objectives inside the Facebook group with screenshots. That will allow us to give you feedback, and it also qualifies you for the prize draw at the end of the week. In doing your annual objectives, you're going to use the objective calculator to help identify realistic revenue and profit objectives. And with this, you want to really spend the time over the next 24 hours really thinking about what your company can achieve in 2023, because that's going to set you up accurately for the rest of the week when we start thinking about organizational structure, who we need to hire when, what does that look like, how do we hire them. All of it breaks down and cascades from understanding what you're trying to achieve, because then we can get into how we're going to achieve it. In addition, as bonus points, Athena, I've asked everyone to post their main takeaway on social media. Tag yourself and me, and let us know what your main kind of aha moment is today. And with that, actually, go ahead and drop that in the chat box for me.
I have an idea. Here, keep talking.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and drop that in the chat box for me. Let me know what your main takeaway has been from today. The one thing that's really coming through for you, drop that in the chat box and let me know, so we can see what you've understood from today and whether we need to reaffirm anything. So Matt saying the 5 core pillars, Catherine saying stay organized. That's her main takeaway today. What else, guys? Drop it in the chat box below, and also drop it on the Facebook. Kerry, the spreadsheets and all the downloads will be posted on the Facebook group. Mark saying start with last year's baseline. Absolutely. Andy, refining goals and management processes. Joe, main takeaway is clarity. There's a method to setting objectives. Love that. Richard's launched more products. 5 pillars connect to goals, able to decide long-term goals. Karen, my main takeaway is I need to increase profit. Patrick, I need to start over. It's better to realize that sooner than later sometimes. Benita, always keeping launch and stay focused. Great. Athena, what's your idea before we wrap up here?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do, guys. I literally just posted this. And so for the first person, actually, we're going to do 2 prizes. One is for the quickest and one is for the coolest. Okay. And I'm going to give you guys 2 tickets to go to any of the holiday parties around the world. And if you can't use it this year, you can use it next year. There's a link. You guys put your main takeaway on that little Facebook post right there. The first person to do it is getting 2 tickets to our holiday party. And then the coolest one's going to get 2 more. So
sweet.
Yeah.
That link's come up as some weird mobile link. We'll go ahead and get it posted properly in the Facebook group here in a second. But go ahead onto Athena's profile, search Athena Severi, comment on there, drop down your main takeaway. And then, yeah, Athena's going to be giving out some stuff, some prizes for doing so. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. If you are, for my non-Titans on the call, if you do want to learn more about Titan Network, head over to titaninvite.com/team. We have some special things set up this week and this week only to get you set up for 2023. So if you've been following for any amount of time, or maybe you've been recommended by a friend and you know that you want to be a part of Titan, then go ahead to titaninvite.com/team and do that. Justin, Chris, great first day, strong start here in this week's challenge. Looking forward to seeing everyone's results in the Facebook group. Thank you to all of our leaders and mentors who have hung around for the last 2.5 hours supporting in the chat box, in Facebook. And then, yeah, go ahead and search Athena.
Sorry, I got you. Mohammed, Mohammed, you are the fastest.
Sweet. There you go. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern, live in the Facebook group. I'll drop the Zoom link out in the morning as well as I did today for day 2 of Titan Network's Team Building and Systems Challenge. See you later.
So cute, Dan. Wait, look, they're thanking you and grateful, and they love you so much. So, yay, all the hard work. Love that. Okay. Bye, guys.